Chapter 831. Thinking of this, Ji Yuqi's shocked expression turned into one of heartache. She hugged Ji Wanhua tightly and comforted her sensibly. "Little auntie, don't be sad. It's little uncle's loss for him to miss you. Little auntie will definitely find someone better." A crack suddenly appeared in Ji Wanhua's calm eyes. The girl's soft body in her arms exuded a faint fragrance, making her feel indescribably irritated. She stiffly stroked the girl's soft hair and said in a very gentle voice, "Yuqi, thank you for your consolation. Auntie is very good. I'm not sad at all. Since you don't love me anymore, then be magnanimous and let go. One day, you'll understand how Auntie feels." "Yes, yes. Little Aunt is the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. Little Aunt, I've missed you so much." Ji Yuqi flattered as if she didn't need money. She shamelessly stayed in Ji Wanhua's arms and could acutely feel her body tense up. "Oh, my dear aunt, I won't lose to you in acting again. Just wait and see." Ji Wanhua patted her back to comfort her and said reproachfully, "You silly girl, you're not young anymore. Why are you still staying in aunt's arms like a child? Hurry and get up. You're making a fool of yourself in front of Aunt Qin." Qin Tingfang sat at the side. Seeing the harmonious relationship between the aunt and niece, she gritted her teeth in hatred. She was afraid that Ji Wanhua would help Ji Yuqi, but she maintained an elegant smile on her face and teased meaningfully, "How would I dare to laugh? Yuqi is our family's princess. All of us have to revolve around her." Ji Wanhua looked deeply at Qin Tingfang and raised the corner of her lips. "Sister-in-law, it's been hard on you all these years." Qin Tingfang was rather flattered. Before she married Ji Bowen had said a lot of bad things about her and even stopped Ji Bowen from marrying her. Later, when she married Ji Bowen, Ji Wanhua was still picking on her. She didn't expect that after returning to the country, she would become a different person. The divorce must have been a huge blow to her. Qin Tingfang thought of this and her smile became even brighter. She said modestly, "Taking care of Bowen and the children is what I should do. It's not hard at all. But you, Wanhua, you're not familiar with the place overseas. You must have suffered a lot." Speaking of this, her face was full of sadness and her eyes were full of concern. She wanted to cry crocodile tears. Ji Wanhua smiled faintly and didn't want to talk about what happened overseas. She subtly changed the topic back to Ji Yuqi and Yi Zissou. The three of them chatted passionately and the atmosphere was very harmonious. Just then, Yi Zissou came back. She had already heard from Qin Tingfang that Ji Wanhua had returned to the country. But since Ji Wanhua didn't like her in the past, she didn't show much enthusiasm and only greeted her politely. She didn't expect Ji Wanhua to grab her hand and pat it, praising her. Although Yi Zissou was baffled by the praise, she still maintained an elegant smile and responded politely. After chatting for a while, Ji Wanhua used the excuse that she was too tired and wanted to go upstairs to rest. Ji Yuqi giggled as she held her arm and accompanied her upstairs. The aunt and niece went upstairs happily. Qin Tingfang and Yi Zissou looked at each other and tacitly got up to go upstairs. Soon, the two of them returned to the master bedroom. "Mom, what's up with Ji Wanhua? Why is she acting so weird?" Yi Zissou stroked the back of her hand that Ji Wanhua had touched. She felt a little creeped out. Qin Tingfang carefully recalled Ji Wanhua's attitude towards her. From the airport to home, she didn't pick on her. Her attitude wasn't friendly, but it wasn't distant either. Qin Tingfang was sure that Ji Wanhua had changed. She smiled slightly and answered Yi Zissou's question. "Ji Wanhua wants to please us. Although I don't know why she's doing this, I can tell that she wants to rope us in and doesn't want to be enemies with us." Yi Zissou's eyes widened. How could that be? She used to hate us so much. She can't be up to something again, right? Chen Tingfang thought for a moment and sneered. We'll deal with whatever comes our way. If she really has some tricks up her sleeve, we don't have to be afraid of her. She's just an abandoned woman with no one backing her up. What's there to be proud of? Yi Sisu pursed her lips. There was still a hint of worry in her eyes. Mom, we can't underestimate our enemy. Although Ji Wanhua is only Uncle Ji's cousin, I can tell that they're closer than real siblings. If Ji Wanhua badmouths us in front of Uncle Ji, we won't be able to guard against it. Chen Tingfang sneered. She's been badmouthing me in front of Ji Bowen all these years. She has to take responsibility for my relationship with Ji Bowen becoming so distant. However, that's all she can do. Can she still urge Ji Bowen to divorce me? Humph, what a joke. Yi Sisu wanted to say something, but Chen Tingfang interrupted her impatiently. Let's not talk about this anymore. It's the birthday party of the municipal party secretary's daughter, Zhu Zhu, in 2 days. She's also sent an invitation to our family. You have to prepare well. Don't embarrass me. Yi Sisu rolled her eyes, and a sweet smile appeared on her pretty face. Mom, Ji Yuqi is coming too, right? Of course. She's the real miss of the Ji family. Chen Tingfang smiled strangely. Last time at the courtyard house, Zhu Zhu was used by you to fight with Ji Yuqi. The feud between the two of them is getting deeper and deeper. This time, I invited the two of you to the banquet to mediate the relationship. We can't miss such a good opportunity. The mother and daughter were really telepathic and thought of the same thing. Yi Sisu also planned to take advantage of Zhu Zhu's birthday banquet to intensify the conflict between her and Ji Yuqi. She wanted them to shed all pretense of cordiality and bite each other to death. Yi Sisu blinked happily and hugged Chen Tingfang's arm coquettishly. Mom, do you have a plan? Chen Tingfang's smile widened. Her eyes were full of satisfaction. She whispered a few words in her ear. She beamed and said, Mom, you're so awesome. Chen Tingfang and her daughter were plotting how to embarrass Ji Yuqi. Ji Yuqi wasn't idle either. She picked up the invitation from the Zhu family and looked at it. She lowered her eyes and pondered. Some memories from her previous life flooded her mind and the anger hidden deep in her heart began to stir again. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Then she slowly opened them and threw the invitation back on the table. Her fingers gently tapped the edge of the table and her lips suddenly curved into a smile. There were wolves in front and tigers behind. These days were not easy at all. The smile on her pink lips deepened, but there was no smile in her dark eyes. It was so cold that it made people tremble. In the evening, Ji Bowen came back from the company. When he saw Ji Wanhua sitting on the sofa, a faint smile appeared on his cold face. Ji Wanhua went up to him and hugged him with Western etiquette. She smiled and said, Brother, long time no see. Ji Bowen had already heard about Ji Wanhua's divorce from Ji Qinxian. He patted her shoulder comfortingly and said gently, Wanhua, how long do you plan to stay this time? The smile on Ji Wanhua's face dimmed. I plan to stay in the country for 3 to 5 years. I wonder if brother and sister-in-law will welcome me. You're treating me like an outsider. We're a family. You can stay at home for as long as you want. Go out for a walk and see the mountains and rivers. You'll be more open-minded. If you're bored, you can even come to the company to help me. Ji Bowen's face was gentle and his tone was gentle. He really was an excellent older brother. Ji Wanhua's eyes flashed, and the smile on her lips became more obvious. Brother, I was just about to discuss this with you. I plan to travel all over China, north and south, to see those scenic places. I've been abroad for so many years, so I don't know much about my own country. It'll be a good way to broaden my horizons. Ji Bowen nodded in agreement. That's good too. When do you plan to leave? Do you need someone to accompany you? If you need to buy anything, just leave it to the housekeeper. Ji Wanhua chuckled. I'll leave tomorrow. Since I'm going to relax, of course I'll go alone. I don't need to bring anything. It'll be easier for me to travel light. The siblings talked about traveling. Chen Tingfang, who couldn't get a word in edgewise, was full of question marks. This Ji Wanhua, what the hell was she doing? Traveling. And she wanted to travel all over China. She must be crazy. Ji Yuqi, on the other hand, could somewhat understand Ji Wanhua's thoughts. For more than 10 years she was bound by her marriage and forced to live in a small world. Now that she was divorced and had cut off the shackles on her body, of course she had to follow her heart and travel around. Not only could she heal the pain of her broken marriage, but she could also broaden her horizons. The next day, Ji Wanhua boarded a plane and flew to Tibet, beginning her journey. Meanwhile, the days of the Ji family's turbulent undercurrents continued. On the eve of Zhu Zhu's birthday party, the thing that Ji Yuqi had been waiting for finally happened. Gao Qiao Technology had a financial scandal. According to media reports, Gao Qiao Technology's financial director, Yu Lianshan, had embezzled millions of US dollars by falsifying the company's accounts. More importantly, this executive had also participated in the conspiracy to falsely report Gao Qiao Technology's earnings of more than 300 million. As soon as the scandal broke out, Yu Lianshan was taken away by the relevant departments for investigation. At the same time, because of the financial scandal, the acquisition of Gao Qiao Technology and Wanxing Entertainment was temporarily put on hold. There were even rumors that Gao Qiao Technology had fallen into a financial crisis. Not only did they not have enough funds to buy Wanxing Entertainment, but they had also pushed themselves into a desperate situation. Although Gao Qiao's CEO, Yu Lei, came out to refute the rumors in time, he could not stop the shareholders from panicking. Gao Qiao's stock price plummeted, hitting the limit on the day of the market opening. When Chen Tingfang heard the news, her vision turned black and she almost fainted. She had taken out all her private savings to buy Gao Qiao Technology stock. Didn't they say that the situation was good and the stock price would continue to rise? Why did it suddenly hit the limit? It was her first time playing the stock market. She did not understand it before, so she could only call her investment and financial management expert. The expert was calm and assured her not to panic, saying that the stock market was like that. There were ups and downs, and she had to believe that Gao Qiao Technology was strong enough to turn the situation around. Even the expert could not comfort her uneasy heart. Chen Tingfang did not sleep well the whole night. She applied a lot of concealer to cover her panda eyes. Yi Zixu, who was dressed up and ready to go to the party, saw Chen Tingfang's gloomy face and asked worriedly, "Mom, are you not feeling well? You don't look so good." Chen Tingfang did not tell her daughter about buying the stock. At this time, she was full of frustration and could not tell her daughter. She could only force a smile. "It's nothing. Maybe I didn't sleep well last night." Welfare, Hongcha 866. Chapter 832. Auntie Chen, if you're not feeling well, you can stay at home and rest. Mrs. Xu and Miss Xu definitely won't blame you. Ji Yuqi was wearing an aqua blue silk dress and an expensive sapphire necklace around her neck. The two complemented each other and made her look like a mermaid swimming in the deep sea. She was beautiful beyond compare. Yi Zixu jealously glanced at the necklace around her neck. Her smile was warm and gentle. "Sister Chi-Chi, Mom said that she just didn't sleep well." "It's all right." Chen Tingfang's gaze also lingered on the necklace for a few seconds. She smiled slightly and said, "As the madam of the Ji family, how can I simply be absent and let the two of you go alone? That will embarrass the host and make our family a joke." Yuchi, I know that you're doing this for my own good, but you have to think about it more thoroughly. Yuchi's charming almond-shaped eyes sparkled. She smiled and said, Auntie Chen's teachings are right. I'll remember them. But Auntie, you have to pay attention to your makeup too. Don't let others see that you're not looking well. Using a woman's face and age to talk about things was a sure-win tactic. Chen Tingfang, who had the upper hand in the argument, instantly changed her expression. She resisted the urge to touch her cheeks. The anger in her heart couldn't be extinguished no matter how hard she tried. Then, she thought about the falling stock price. Anger and anxiety intertwined and burned, tormenting Chen Tingfang until she was mentally and physically exhausted. Her complexion became even worse. When the Ji family's car arrived at the Zhu family's courtyard, Chen Tingfang reluctantly adjusted her state of mind. She elegantly led her two daughters to the Zhu family's residence. The municipal party secretary, Zhu Qiu, had just taken office this year. He held a banquet in the name of his daughter's birthday in order to build a good relationship with the rich and powerful in Ning City. It would be easier to do things if he had a good relationship with them. If he wanted to achieve something in his position, he had to gain the support of these local tyrants. The Zhu family was also very rich, and the villa they built was exceptionally luxurious. Zhu Qiu wasn't a child of a poor family. His Zhu family was also a reputable family in the provincial capital. Therefore, there were rumors that Zhu Qiu came to Ning City for a job. No matter what the rumors were, the rich and powerful families in Ning City had to give him some face. They all brought their wives and children to attend the banquet. Even the eldest young master of the Shen family, who had always disdained such things, came. Zhu Qiu was very satisfied, but he did not know that Shinja was willing to attend the banquet not because of him, but because of Ji Yuqi. As long as it was an occasion where Ji Yuqi appeared, Shinja did not want to miss it. That was all. When the Ji family arrived, Madame Zhu, Chen Lian, led her daughter to personally welcome them. Madame Ji, welcome, welcome. These must be your daughters. They are so gentle and virtuous. I can tell at a glance that they are less worrisome than my daughter. Chen Lian was just like Wang Shifeng. Before meeting her, one could hear her voice. When she saw someone, she would smile. She seemed easy to get along with, but the reserved elegance in her bones made it impossible to warm her heart. Zhu Zhu was wearing a red dress today. Coupled with her flamboyant beauty, she was like an azalea flower in full bloom. She was gorgeous but not vulgar. She did not like the Ji sisters because of the conflict in the courtyard last time. However, her parents told her to build a good relationship with the Ji sisters, so she had to let it go. She grabbed Chen Lian's arm and pretended to be coquettish. Mom, you are too biased. Why did you only praise the two sisters and not me? Chen Lian could not help but laugh. You little girl, how old are you? You are still jealous of the Ji sisters. Aren't you ashamed? In my opinion, a girl should be like Zhu Zhu. She is more lively to be cute. If I had a daughter, I would definitely raise her to be like Zhu Zhu. Chen Tingfang was also from a wealthy family, so she could naturally respond appropriately. She smiled gently and did not appear to be flattering or distant. She naturally and kindly praised Zhu Zhu. Hearing this, Chen Lian's smile spread from her face to her eyes. Who didn't like to hear others praise their children? Ji Yuqi smiled. That's right. I also want to have a handsome and cute sister like Zhu Zhu. A spoiled and straightforward sister was much cuter than a sister who was gentle on the surface but backstabbing on the back. The smile in Chen Lian's eyes became more obvious. Their municipal party secretary had said that he wanted his daughter to build a good relationship with the Ji sisters, especially with Ji Yuqi, because Ji Bowen loved his daughter very much. Thinking of this, she held Ji Yuqi's hand and patted it gently. She said gently and kindly, Yuqi, I heard about what happened last time from Zhu. There was a misunderstanding between the two of you. Don't be angry. Auntie has already taught her a lesson for you. For Auntie's sake, can you forgive Zhu? It turned out that Chen Lian had such a humble and gentle side. Thinking about how Chen Lian did not give her any face in her previous life and kicked her out of Zhu's birthday party, Ji Yuqi's heart was filled with mixed feelings. She curved her lips and a bright smile appeared on her face. Auntie, you already said that it was a misunderstanding. What is there to forgive? Zhu and I are classmates and will be good sisters in the future. You saying that makes me feel ashamed. Okay. Let's not talk about the past. Chen Lian said with a smile. Zhu, take the two sisters for a walk in the garden. Zhu's fair cheeks were dyed with an unnatural blush. Although she was arrogant, she was not unreasonable. Since Ji Yuqi was willing to give her a way out, she would naturally follow suit. She took the initiative to smile at Ji Yuqi. Let's go, Yuqi. Many of our classmates have already arrived. Let's go meet them together. Okay. Ji Yuqi also smiled in return. The two of them chatted as they walked, and the atmosphere was harmonious. Yi Sisu felt very uncomfortable. She wanted to speak several times, but Ji Yuqi beat her to it and stole Chen Lian's attention. Chen Lian did not even look at her. As for Zhu, she did not care about her at all. It was as if she was a gift and her only value was to follow behind Ji Yuqi. This realization made her so angry that she wanted to vomit blood. Her long nails dug into her palms, leaving deep marks. The hatred in her heart grew deeper and deeper. This also made her determined to teach Ji Yuqi a lesson. The Zhu family's garden was very large. The entire design was modeled after Suzhou's gardens. There were artificial mountains and lakes, as well as pavilions and towers. Guests gathered in twos and threes, drinking and chatting. It was very lively. Zhu led Ji Yuqi and Yi Sisu to the garden. Under a huge flower rack, there were exquisite wooden tables and chairs. Exquisite pastries, fruits, and all kinds of drinks were freely available. A group of young men and women were laughing and playing here. Before they stepped into the garden, Ji Yuqi saw Jiang Tianhao standing with a few boys and chatting casually. He held a glass of red wine in his hand. He did not feel embarrassed at all because of his inferior birth. He was handsome and confident, and he attracted the attention of many young girls. Lin Yushi was not with them. Instead, she leaned on the railing alone and watched the goldfish in the lake. She was wearing a white evening gown. The otherworldly white color set off her cold and elegant temperament. She was very beautiful. Ji Yuqi's lips curled, revealing the first sincere smile of the night. Her step seemed to be lighter. Ji Yuqi, you're late. Shouldn't you drink a glass of wine as punishment? The one who spoke was Yi Sisu's die-hard fan, Xiao Ren. He used to bully Ji Yuqi. Although he looked like a rascal, his father was a nouveau riche with assets in the hundreds of millions. Goddess Ji, this little one has already poured the wine for you. Don't let us down. A handsome boy with earrings in his ears picked up a glass of red wine and offered it to Ji Yuqi with both hands. This boy was Xiao Ren's good brother. The two of them were so close that they could wear the same pair of pants. They also liked the same woman with the same taste, Yi Sisu. Ji Yuqi chuckled. Just as she was about to take the wine glass, someone beat her to it and took the glass. His handsome face looked even more handsome under the soft light. His warm and smiling voice was as charming as a breeze. You too, bullying a virtuous girl is not the behavior of a gentleman. I'll drink this glass of wine on behalf of Yuqi. After saying that, he raised his beautiful chin and slowly drank the red wine in the glass. Good, Senior Jiang. I didn't expect you to be so gentlemanly. The laughter was full of ridicule. Yizisu classmate, I'm very curious. How can you tolerate your boyfriend treating other girls? The tone that sounded innocent and curious was full of malice. Jiang Tianhao, although there have always been rumors that you like Ji Yuqi, you don't have to go so far. Have you ever considered Zisu's feelings? Xiao Ren was indeed Yizisu's diehard fan. He always wanted to stand up for her. He slammed the table and stood up angrily. Although Ji Yuqi liked watching them fight, she had to say something for the upcoming show. So, her sad eyes fell on Jiang Tianhao, but her tone was indescribably cold. Senior Jiang, Xiao Ren is right. I don't need you to care about my affairs. You just need to take good care of Zisu. Two contradictory emotions intertwined in her body. She was obviously very sad, but she tried hard to show a disdainful look. She was so strong and stubborn that people wanted to hold her in their arms and comfort her with good words. Jiang Tianhao's eyes were glued to her body and couldn't move away. Yizisu, who had been ignored by him for a long time, clenched her teeth tightly. Otherwise, she was worried that she would roar angrily as soon as she opened her mouth. She pinched her palms hard and walked gracefully to Jiang Tianhao's side. She blocked his line of sight and smiled elegantly at the people who were watching the show. Xiao Ren, and everyone, you've all misunderstood. I asked Senior Jiang to take care of Sister Qiqi. Sister Qiqi's body is weak and can't drink alcohol. Since I'm late and have to drink a glass as a punishment, then I'll also punish myself with a glass. Yizisu's words successfully pulled Jiang Tianhao's attention back to her. Jiang Tianhao actually felt guilty. He was too rash. In order to win Ji Yuqi's favor, he actually neglected Zisu and let her be mocked. He really shouldn't have done that. As for the others, although they had the intention to target Yizisu, seeing that she was so natural and graceful to save face, they didn't want to make things difficult for her. Xiao Ren's original intention was to embarrass Ji Yuqi, but he didn't expect to shoot his goddess in the foot. He hurriedly said, Zisu, I'll help you drink. A burst of low mocking laughter sounded again. Yizisu blushed and glanced at him uncomfortably. Beauty novel, Xinwu 799. Chapter 833. Xiao Ren belatedly realized that he had made a fool of himself. Her boyfriend was right here, so why would she need an outsider like him to court her? He awkwardly rubbed his nose and laughed dryly. We're all classmates, so we should help each other. Xiao Ren classmate, you don't have to worry. My girlfriend will naturally be taken care of by me. A large hand with distinct knuckles took out a glass of red wine from the tray. His elegant and confident drinking motion calmed the anger in Yizisu's heart. She tilted her head to look at the man who stood up for her, and a bashful smile appeared on her beautiful face. Finally, she glanced at Ji Yuqi casually with a hint of flaunting in her eyes. Ji Yuqi cooperatively avoided her gaze and looked towards the horizon. Her delicate silhouette was dyed with a thin layer of sadness. Yizisu smiled with satisfaction. Thinking of her plan, her smile became even more brilliant. Ji Yuqi no longer looked at the couple who were showing off their affection in front of everyone and walked straight towards Lin Yuxi. Her back view as she silently left fell into the eyes of Yizisu and Jiang Tianhao. Both of them thought that she was deeply hurt and wanted to find a quiet place to lick the wounds in her heart. Lin Yuxi quietly leaned on the railing, not caring about the clamor around her. She was like a fairy who had fallen into the mortal world, ignorant and guarding her own little world. Guess who I am? A pair of cold hands suddenly covered her eyes, and a deep and mellow voice came from behind her. Lin Yuxi curled her lips in amusement. Although the person deliberately walked lightly, she had already smelled the familiar fragrance on her body. Thus, she reached out her hands and grabbed the waist of the person behind her. She shouted, Ji Yuqi, you baddie, who else could it be other than you? Boring, you guessed it so easily. Ji Yuchi quickly released her hands to stop her hands from messing around her waist. Who told you to be so stupid? You don't even know how to lie. Lin Yushi unceremoniously rolled her eyes at her. So the ice beauty knows how to roll her eyes too. Wow, what a great discovery. Ji Yuchi propped up her chin with one hand and stared at Lin Yushi's pretty face with interest. Lin Yushi was both angry and amused. Just as she was about to say something, she suddenly caught a glimpse of a tall figure in the distance. She poked Ji Yuchi's arm and whispered, "Hey, Yuchi, look over there. Young Master Shen has been staring at us for a long time. Guess, is it you or me?" Ji Yuchi's eyes suddenly widened. Shenjie, he actually came too. Didn't he hate this kind of banquet the most? She quickly looked in the direction Lin Yushi was pointing at. On the lawn across the lake, a group of men and women dressed in luxurious clothes were chatting. Most of them were older than her. Her father and Tang Feng's father were among them. There were also a few young masters, such as Gu Fifan and Shenjie. Gu Fifan was chatting with the two elders and did not notice Ji Yuchi's existence. Shenjie, who was used to being alone, faintly responded with a few words, then walked to a place with fewer people and looked at Ji Yuchi across the lake. He saw that she had a conflict with Xiao Ren and others. Although he was too far away to hear what they were arguing about, he still stared at them attentively. In his dark eyes, there was only her existence. Then, he saw her walk towards the girl by the lake and hug the girl from behind. His fingers that were holding the wine cup suddenly tightened, almost shattering it. His heart was filled with a strange emotion. He hated that little girl being close to other people. No matter if it was a man or a woman, he couldn't wait to kill the person that she was close to. Damn it, she belonged to him, he wouldn't allow anyone else to touch her. If looks could kill, Shenjie would have killed Lin Yushi 100 times. Although they were far away and Ji Yuchi couldn't see the expression on Shenjie's face, from his statue-like posture and his unblinking gaze, she could guess that he was in a bad mood. He must not like noisy environments and did not want to deal with others with false civility, so he was in a bad mood. She bit her lip and suddenly wanted to comfort him. Yuchi, although young Master Shen is very handsome, you don't have to look at him in a daze. Lin Yushi's teasing voice sounded in her ear. Ji Yuchi slowly withdrew her gaze and stared at Lin Yushi with burning eyes. She asked gossipily, "Yushi, have you ever liked someone else?" This question. Lin Yushi touched her chin with her fingertips and thought very seriously, as if she had asked a very profound question. Ji Yuchi saw that her mind was wandering, so she couldn't help but smile. She took out her phone from her handbag, tapped on a familiar name, and quickly sent a text message. Shenjie, who was full of murderous intent because of the sudden jealousy, suddenly felt the phone in his trouser pocket vibrate. He didn't want to pay attention to it, but he saw Ji Yuchi waving at him from a distance. The murderous intent around him miraculously subsided a little. He took out his phone and saw her text message, "Have some dessert, it can make you feel better." At the end, she attached a big smile, just like her sunny smiling face. His cold and stiff lips couldn't help but curve, but in an instant, they were tightly pressed together. His slender fingers quickly swiped on the phone. Ding! I received a new text message, "Stay away from the woman next to you. Don't touch her again. And don't let her touch you." Through this text message, Ji Yuchi could feel his strong dissatisfaction. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It turned out that Shenjie was angry not because there were too many people at the banquet, but because she and Yushi were too close. Was there a mistake? He was jealous of a woman. However, she didn't feel disgusted at all. She felt sweet in her heart, as if she had eaten candy. Ji Yuchi lowered her eyes, pursed her lips and smiled. Her slender fingers danced on the phone screen, and she replied to him with a text message. "Stop fooling around. I'll cook something delicious for you tomorrow, She attached a cute smiley face. Shinja's tightly pursed lips loosened, and his deep pupils rippled with a rippling brilliance. It was as gorgeous as fireworks, but it disappeared in an instant. His cool and handsome face seemed to be shrouded in sunlight, and a momentary warmth slid across it. He raised his head, looked at her deeply, and didn't reply to the text message. His handsome and tall body turned under her gaze, and he walked toward the lively crowd. Ji Yuqi was stunned, and she felt inexplicably disappointed. Lin Yushi suddenly threw herself on her shoulder and peeked at her phone. Her voice was full of excitement as she gossiped. "Ha, so that's what happened. I caught you." Ji Yuqi's cheeks quickly flushed. She quickly put away her phone, but on second thought, she felt that her 300 taels of silver here behavior was too ridiculous, so she simply admitted it openly. "Yushi, as you can see, Shinja and I are dating." She paused, and her tone was indescribably serious and sincere. "Yushi, my relationship with him can't be made public for the time being. You'll help me keep it a secret, right?" Lin Yushi frowned. "Of course. This miss is not a gossipy person. But, my poor cousin, he has fallen out of love again." Ji Yuqi thought of how Gu Fifan had been pestering her during this period of time, and she couldn't help but shiver. She quickly said, "Don't tell him. If he finds out, who knows what kind of trouble will happen." In her opinion, Gu Fifan's greatest ability was to provoke women and create trouble. Okay. Don't worry. I promise you that I won't tell anyone, and I definitely won't tell anyone." Lin Yushi lit 3 candles for her poor cousin in her heart. Cousin, it seems that it's impossible for you to snatch someone from young Master Shin." As the night deepened, Ji Yuqi and Lin Yushi walked to the hall hand in hand. When the two of them passed by the garden, Lin Yushi was called over by an elder she was familiar with for a chat. Ji Yuqi didn't want to stand aside and eavesdrop, so she left first. She walked to the lush flower trees and met a servant. The servant said politely, "Miss Ji, a gentleman asked me to pass a note to you." "It's finally here." Ji Yuqi sneered in her heart, but she didn't show it on her face. She took the note and unfolded it. On it was written in a clear and elegant handwriting, "Yuqi, I have a very important matter to discuss with you. 8:00, meet at the rockery behind the forest. Be there or be square. Tianhao." Ji Yuqi smiled faintly and crumpled the note into a ball. She pinched it in her palm and looked at the small forest. The unbearable memories of her previous life were awakened again, and her eyes were as cold as ice. At the moment when she was distracted, a slender arm stretched out from behind the big tree, wrapped around her slender waist, and dragged her behind the big tree. He was extremely fast. Before Ji Yuqi had time to struggle, she had already smelled the familiar faint fragrance. The man's scalding big palm supported her waist, burning her skin. His warm breath sprayed on her neck, almost burning her. She was tightly imprisoned against his chest. She could clearly feel his heartbeat, passionate and strong. Ji Yuqi's heart thumped fiercely. She obediently allowed him to hug her. She didn't speak, and he also remained silent. The two of them maintained this extremely intimate position. Finally, she couldn't help but speak. Her clear voice had a trace of coquettishness. "Shinja, why are you hiding here?" Shinja tightened his arms. He was mesmerized by the soft girl in his arms. His thin chin gently rubbed against her raven black hair. His voice was as low as an expensive musical instrument. "I want to hug you." So he hid in the path she had to pass by. Ji Yuqi's heart trembled. She obviously felt shy, but she couldn't help but raise the corners of her lips. Whether it was in her previous life or this life, he was always clear about his likes and dislikes. If he hated her, he wouldn't even look at her. If he liked her, he would give her to her in the previous world. It was very quiet all around, and no one disturbed them. Ji-Yuchi didn't mind being hugged by him for a while longer, but she still had things to do. Her slender fingers gently patted the back of his hand. She said gently, "Shinji, we've disappeared for too long. It's time to go back." A certain arrogant man buried his head in her shoulder. He said in a muffled voice, "Ignore them." Ji-Yuchi couldn't help but laugh. "Don't be so willful. He could be so cute when he was childish sometimes." Shinji suddenly turned his face and gently kissed her pink cheek. Only then did he curl his lips in satisfaction and let go of the little girl who had been petrified in his arms. He elegantly tidied her clothes and hair, and his voice was full of joy. "Let's go, Chi-Chi." Ji-Yuchi's mouth twitched. This guy really knew how to loot a burning house. Welfare, Shinwoo 799. Chapter 834. The two of them came out from behind the tree. Ji-Yuchi walked in front and Shinjio was one step behind her. It seemed that there was no relationship between the two of them, but if you looked closely, you would find that the man walking behind was silently accommodating the woman in front of him. If she walked fast, he would take bigger steps. If she walked slowly, he would slow down. The two of them were always one step apart. When they were about to reach the hall, Ji-Yuchi suddenly stopped and turned to look at Shinjia. Her face was very calm, and she said in a voice that only the two of them could hear, "Shinjia, I might do something bad later. Can you pretend that you didn't see it?" She had used the tone of a negotiation, but he could hear the pleading in her tone. Displeasure flashed past his heart. She didn't allow him to invade her privacy, and this thought made his chest tighten. He pursed his lips and said indifferently, "I've said it before, I won't interfere." After that, he didn't look at her anymore and walked past her. When he was one step away from her, Ji-Yuchi bit her lip and couldn't help but whisper, "No, I just don't want you to see my ugly side." It was because she cared that she was afraid. She was afraid that he would discover all the ugly things about her. Her voice was very low, so low that Shinja thought he was hallucinating. He paused and a faint light flashed through his beautiful phoenix eyes. The banquet began. Shinja and Zhu Qiu were sitting at the same table, among a group of elders. It was enough to see that Zhu Qiu valued him. Unfortunately, he didn't feel anything and continued to talk to others indifferently. Ji-Yuchi saw that he was silent and guessed that he must be very impatient at this moment. Ji-Yuchi sat at the first table below. This table was full of Zhu Zhu's classmates. Sitting next to her was Lin Yushi, and on the other side was Yi Zisu. Gu Fifan sat opposite her, his elegant peach blossom eyes flirting with her from time to time, completely ignoring the others present. Ji-Yuchi was a little helpless. She didn't know what Zhu Zhu was thinking, arranging this person to sit at the same table as her. Wasn't this deliberately causing trouble? "Yushi, let's change our seats." Gu Fifan didn't know what low-key was. He stared at Ji-Yuchi with a smile, and his intention was obvious. Lin Yushi was expressionless. "Cousin, the banquet has already started. It's not nice to keep changing." Ji-Yuchi lowered her eyes and pretended not to see anything. She felt a gloomy gaze fall on her body. She knew that it was a jealous man staring at her. If she opened her mouth to say something to Gu Fifan, she would definitely die miserably. "Yuchi, this soup is not bad. Try it." A bowl of fragrant chicken soup was placed in front of her. Ji-Yuchi was speechless. She was roaring in her heart, "You are courting me in front of your ex-girlfriend, Zhu Zhu. Have you considered our feelings?" "I'm about to be frozen by Shinja's gaze, bastard." Zhu Zhu's eyes flashed with small flames. She was about to flip out, "You bastard. It smells good, but I don't like to drink chicken soup." Ji-Yuchi put the chicken soup aside expressionlessly. Then try it. Gu Fifan was interrupted by Zhu Zhu before he could finish his words. Gu Fifan, are you done? Do you know that you make people feel disgusted? Zhu Zhu's bright face was full of anger. Although she tried to lower her voice, it still attracted the attention of the guests at the next table. Gu Fifan raised his eyebrows and said lazily, Miss Zhu, are you jealous? Although Zhu Zhu had broken up with him, she still liked him in her heart. When he poked at her heart, her face turned red and then white, which was very eye-catching. Ji Yuqi saw that Zhu Zhu had not harmed her in her previous life, so she gracefully put down the napkin and looked at Zhu Zhu with a smile. She half-jokingly said, jealousy is good for the body and mind. I also like to be jealous, but it also depends on whether the dish is to my taste. If it's not to my taste, it's useless to add more vinegar. Zhu Zhu was not a fool. She could see that Ji Yuqi was speaking up for her. Under everyone's gaze, she gave her a way out. She took a deep breath and a bright smile appeared on her delicate face. Yes, if you don't like the dish, don't try it. Why would you care about adding vinegar? Yuqi, I heard that you are very good at painting. I have also been learning recently. Later, can you give me some advice? The topic was soon changed. The two women excitedly talked about painting. Gu Fifan was insinuated as unappetizing dish by them. He was very angry, but then he felt funny. He, who had always been invincible, was actually disliked by others. This was a very new experience. Halfway through the meal, Xiaoren at the same table raised his wine glass and said with a smile, Students, let's toast to today's birthday girl. We wish her a happy life every year. A woman changes 18 times between childhood and womanhood. The more she grows, the more beautiful she becomes. Someone burst into laughter. Xiaoren, your toast is really unique. Zhu Zhu, I wish you a good mood every day and a beautiful life. The boys and girls present all held their wine glasses and gave their blessings to Zhu Zhu, including Gu Fifan, who also said, Happy birthday. Then everyone cheered and drank the wine in their glasses. Putting aside prejudice, Xiaoren was indeed a person who was very good at livening up the atmosphere. He waved away the servant who was pouring wine and happily poured wine for his classmates. When it was Gu Fifan's turn, his suit sleeve gently brushed over the wine glass. Something hidden between his fingers was poured into the wine glass with the wine. His movements were extremely fast. Apart from Ji Yuqi, who had been secretly observing him, no one else could clearly see what he had done. Of course, there was one other person who was well aware of what he had done, and that was Yi Zissou, who had been maintaining an elegant smile all this time. Brother Fifan, you are a famous person in our school. I have admired you for a long time. Today, I must toast to you. Please do me the honor. Xiaoren's glib smile amused everyone. Gu Fifan raised his eyebrows and did not say much. He gave face and drank the wine in the glass. The banquet was over. Some guests said goodbye to the host, and some stayed to continue the entertainment. Ji Yuqi excused herself to go to the bathroom and went to a place where there was no one. She took out a small mobile phone from her handbag. Its appearance was not unusual, but the SIM card inside was very special. She asked the computer genius Ahan to copy Yi Zissou's SIM card. As long as she sent a text message with this card, the recipient would mistakenly think that it was sent by Yi Zissou. Ji Yuqi sent a text message to Xiaoren in the name of Yi Zissou, asking him to wait for her in the small garden pavilion. She had something important to tell him. Xiaoren was excited. When he obeyed the goddess's order and put the pill into Gu Fifan's wine, he was in a state of excitement. He was excited and nervous. He was afraid that he would be discovered. His complicated emotions urgently needed to be vented. So when he received the text message, he did not have the slightest doubt and went to the destination in high spirits. At the same time, a servant gave Gu Fifan a small note. Gu Fifan was already half drunk and his mind was not very clear. He saw that the note was written by Yuchi, asking him to meet behind the rockery in the grove. His whole body was like being injected with chicken blood. He excitedly went to the grove. Yizisu hid in the crowd and saw that Gu Fifan went to the grove as she expected. But Ji Yuchi stayed by the balcony as usual and chatted with Lin Yushi in a low voice. She did not have the slightest intention of going to the appointment. She could not help but nervously clench her fists. Could it be that Ji Yuchi, that bitch, saw through her plot? With that thought in mind, she suddenly realized that something was wrong. Jiang Tianhao. Jiang Tianhao had been by her side the whole time. If he did not go to the grove, Ji Yuchi would definitely think that he would not go to the appointment. Then there was no need for her to go. Damn it, she almost missed the most important thing. Yizisu turned to look at Jiang Tianhao, who was by her side, and smiled gently. Tianhao, I want to go to the washroom. Go to the garden and find a hidden place to wait for me. I want to be alone with you. She drew circles on his chest with her finger. When his eyes darkened, she suddenly whispered in his ear, don't go near Ji Yuchi. Otherwise, I'll be angry. Jiang Tianhao's eyes flickered. He stroked the hair by her ear and smiled gently. Got it, little vinegar jar. I'll wait for you over there. The garden was the path to the grove. If Ji Yuchi saw Jiang Tianhao walking towards the garden, she would definitely think that he was going to the grove. Then, Gigai would take the bait. Yizisu felt that it was wise of her to use Jiang Tianhao's name to ask Ji Yuchi to meet behind the rockery and lure the drunk Gu Fifan there at the same time. She wanted to ruin their reputations. One of them would be accused of seducing someone's boyfriend, and the other of messing around at his ex-girlfriend's birthday party. What a pair of birds of a feather. As soon as Yizisu left, Ji Yuchi stopped chatting and looked seriously into Lin Yushi's eyes. Yushi, I have a favor to ask of you. Jiang Tianhao stood in the distance and watched as Ji Yuchi and Lin Yushi whispered to each other. He had an indescribable feeling in his heart. He wanted to go up and talk to her, but Yizisu's instructions were still in his ears. He didn't want Zisu to misunderstand, so he could only turn around and leave sullenly. The most hidden place in the garden was the small pavilion by the lake. Hidden among the flourishing flowers, it was quiet and comfortable. It was the best place for couples to date. Jiang Tianhao would obviously choose that place. 1 minute after he left, Ji Yuchi also hurried to the rockery behind the grove. Gu Fifan, who had been schemed against, probably couldn't hold on for long. Behind a pitch-black rockery, Gu Fifan leaned against a tree trunk, his whole body hot and uncomfortable. He held his forehead with one hand and tried to stay awake. He felt that something was wrong with him and wanted to find a woman to vent his anger. A burst of fragrance rushed into his nose, and the sound of footsteps was getting closer and closer. Gu Fifan knew that the person was Ji Yuchi. His heart suddenly beat faster, and his body became even hotter. He stretched out his arm and pulled the little girl who was approaching him in the dark into his arms. Chi-Chi. He eagerly stroked her with both hands and bent down to kiss her cheek. Gu Fifan, calm down. Ji Yuchi angrily slapped his face away. She really wanted to throw this guy who was obsessed with women into the lake to sober up. Chi-Chi, I feel so uncomfortable. Gu Fifan was suffering from the double torture of drugs and alcohol. His mind was muddled, and he didn't have much reason. Relying on his instinct, he tried to get close to a certain soft body. Ji Yuchi wanted to take something out of her handbag, but her hands were entangled by him, so she couldn't move. She gritted her teeth and planned to knock him out. But before she could take action, she heard a plop sound. Gu Fifan softly fell to the ground. A handsome and tall figure stood behind Gu Fifan, and his deep eyes stared straight at her. Welfare, Songshu 566. Chapter 835. Where did he touch you? As soon as Shinja opened his mouth, the surrounding temperature suddenly dropped by more than 10 degrees. Ji Yuchi's heart was cold. It's just, my arm, really. Ji Yuchi hurriedly proved her innocence. Shinja snorted coldly, his cold gaze circling Gu Fifan a few times, as if he was considering whether to destroy this man's body. Ji Yuchi coughed dryly, quickly stood between him and Gu Fifan, and muttered, he was schemed against, so he did those things. Fortunately, I was smart and brought a sedative. Although it can't cure the poison in his body, it can help him regain his senses. Ji Yuchi didn't know why she explained so much. Perhaps, she just didn't want Shinja to misunderstand. She quickly took out the sedative from her bag, poured out a few pills, stuffed them into Gu Fifan's mouth, and then slapped his cheek hard. Gu Fifan woke up in a daze, only to feel a pain in the back of his head and face. The heat in his body dissipated a lot, and his mind gradually became clearer. He stared blankly at the woman squatting in front of him, as if he still didn't believe it. He hesitated for a moment and asked, what happened to me just now? He remembered that he seemed to have done something bad to her. Ji Yuchi looked back and saw that Shinja had disappeared. He should be hiding in the dark. She sighed. If Gu Fifan saw him, it might cause some unnecessary trouble. She didn't have time to explain to Gu Fifan. She guessed that Yizisu had already brought people to the rockery to catch them in the act. If they were found hiding here, even if they were innocent, there would be unbearable rumors. She pulled him up from the ground and said quickly, I'll explain this matter to you later. Hurry up and leave here. If you meet anyone on the way, avoid them and then go back to the hall. Ji Yuchi's soft fingers held his arm. Gu Fifan suddenly froze, and the demon that he had suppressed in his heart began to stir again. He clenched his fingers and tried to restrain himself. His mind was also spinning rapidly, and he realized that something big was about to happen, and it was related to him. He chose to believe in Ji Yuchi and looked at her deeply. I owe you for what happened today. It's too dark here, and it's not safe. Don't stay too long. Well, I know. You should leave quickly. Ji Yuchi urged him to leave quickly. Gu Fifan's back disappeared in the night, and Shinja appeared out of nowhere. His elegant and handsome body stood under the moonlight, aloof from the dust. Ji Yuchi walked to his side and took the initiative to hold his hand. She lifted her bright and clean little face and smiled brightly. Shinja, let's go watch the show, okay? Her soft voice and slightly fawning tone, was the little girl in front of him worried that he would be angry? Shinja's tense lips relaxed slightly, and his pitch-black eyes were filled with a hint of a smile. He subconsciously held her hand tightly, and her cold and slender fingertips gently scratched his palm. Her voice was soft. Don't be angry. She had many things hidden from him. Why did she know that Gu Fifan was being schemed against? Why did she carry tranquilizers with her everywhere? Why did she know that a good show was about to happen? There were so many secrets, and it was no wonder that he would be angry. Ji Yuchi was perturbed, and she did not know if the secrets she was carrying would cause a misunderstanding between the two of them. And it was impossible for her to tell him about her rebirth. The only thing she could do was to minimize the negative consequences of being a prophet as much as possible. Shinja replied with a faint and his broad palm completely covered her little hand. He looked straight ahead and held her hand as they walked forward. Ji Yuchi frowned. What did he mean by that, Did he agree with what she said and was no longer angry? She stole a glance at him and saw that the corners of his lips were quietly raised. She could not help but smile as well, and her heart was filled with sweetness. Yizisu raised her hand and looked at the gold watch on her wrist. It was almost time. Ji Yuchi and Gu Fifan were like firewood burning with passion. What should have happened had already happened, and she was looking forward to what would happen next. At this moment, Xiaoren was pressing down on his thumping heart as he hid in the small pavilion, waiting for the arrival of the goddess in his dreams. There were no lights in the pavilion, and it was pitch black. In the distance, a faint moonlight shrouded the lake, and the scenery was very beautiful. He imagined himself and Yizisu admiring the beautiful scenery under the moonlight. The two of them were together, and they were not separated from each other. Ah, what a beautiful scene. Just as he was immersed in his own fantasy, the sound of crisp footsteps suddenly came from outside the pavilion. The flourishing flowers and trees blocked the figure of the person, but Xiaoren knew that it must be his goddess. He jumped up excitedly and quietly walked to the entrance, planning to give his goddess a surprise when she walked in. Jiang Tianhao wandered around the garden for a while and felt a little tired. He planned to rest in the pavilion while waiting for Yizisu. He had just stepped into the dark pavilion when a shadow suddenly appeared out of nowhere and hugged him tightly. Jiang Tianhao trembled. The first thought that came to his mind was that this person was Ji Yuqi. She might have followed him and deliberately waited for him here. However, it seemed that something was not right. A girl's body should be soft, and Yuqi was not so tall. Jiang Tianhao was shocked. He wanted to push the person who hugged him away, but he heard the person's excited and trembling voice, "Zisu, you're finally here. I've been waiting for you for a long time." "Zisu, I've already done as you said and added something to Gu Fifen's wine. Did I do a good job?" No one noticed it yet. Xiaoren finally hugged the goddess of his dreams. Because he was too excited and too nervous, he did not notice that something was wrong at the first moment. "Xiaoren, you idiot." There was a big difference between a man's and a woman's touch. Jiang Tianhao roared in his heart. He wanted to throw the man in front of him into the lake to wake up his brain. However, his reason told him that he had to endure. His body was stiff and he did not dare to move. He wanted to entice the idiot to confess and tell him everything he knew. Xiaoren did not disappoint. In order to please his goddess, he spilled the beans from a bamboo tube. "Zisu, why aren't you saying anything? Are you afraid that Gu Fifen will notice it when he wakes up?" "Don't worry, if Gu Fifen finds out, I'll take responsibility. I won't drag you down." Jiang Tianhao frowned. A strong sense of uneasiness surged in his heart. Zisu asked Xiaoren to add something to Gu Fifen's wine. Why did she do that? Xiaoren saw that his goddess did not say anything. He thought that his goddess was worried about whether the plan would go smoothly. He quickly vowed, "Zisu, you don't have to worry. I saw Gu Fifen go to the rockery. He's now drunk and has taken that kind of medicine. He's delirious. He'll definitely do that to Ji Yuqi, that kind of medicine." Ji Yuqi, Jiang Tianhao suddenly realized that Gu Fifen had always been interested in Ji Yuqi. Zisu put the two of them together at this time. Not only would it ruin their reputation, but it would also offend Zhu Zhu. His feelings for Ji Yuqi were a little complicated. He wanted to use her for revenge, but he did not want her to be tainted by other men. Because she was destined to be his woman. Jiang Tianhao was burning with anger. For the first time, he felt anger towards Yizisu. She actually hid it from him. She actually had an ambiguous relationship with Xiaoren, this idiot. She simply did not put him in her eyes. He had fallen from a humble family. He had been looked down upon and bullied a lot. He hated it when people ignored his existence. At this moment, his anger towards Yizisu increased rapidly. He also hated Xiaoren, this idiot. He could no longer endure it. He suddenly stretched out his arm and pushed Xiaoren away. He was very strong, and Xiaoren was pushed back a few steps. Xiaoren was surprised that his goddess was so strong. He threw himself at her again and shouted, "Zisu, I have liked you for a long time." Jiang Tianhao, that poor boy, is not worthy of you. Be with me. I will definitely love you and make you the happiest girl in the world. Damn it, he was almost pushed to the ground by this idiot. In the darkness, Jiang Tianhao's handsome face was distorted by anger. His anger had clouded his reason. He could not help but put his hand on Xiao Ren's neck. If he used more strength, he could break his neck. On the other side, Yi Zixu, who was in the hall, claimed that she had lost her earrings. She wanted to go to the place where she had just passed by to look for them. Although Zhu Zhu did not like her, as the host, she could not neglect her guest. So she called a few servants and classmates who were close to her to help her look for the earrings. Lin Yuxi also followed. The group of people held flashlights and walked towards the dark garden. Yi Zixu walked at the front, wanting to lead the group to the back of the rockery as soon as possible. Suddenly, she heard Lin Yuxi's surprised voice. Wait a minute, did you guys hear any strange sounds? Zhu Zhu and the others stopped. There's no sound. Yi Zixu was afraid that Lin Yuxi would stall for time, so she quickly said, there's no sound. I didn't stay here today. The earrings should have fallen in the woods. Let's hurry over and take a look. Lin Yuxi's face was serious and her tone was firm. I really heard a sound. It sounded like a scream, but it also sounded like a very painful sound. It's over at the pavilion. You guys wait here. I'll go and take a look. It won't be good if something happens. As soon as she finished speaking, she immediately rushed towards the pavilion. Of course, Zhu Zhu couldn't let her go alone. It was dark, and she was a girl. If something happened. Zhu Zhu glanced at Yi Zixu and said, let's go and take a look. Anyway, we're not in a hurry to find the earrings. As they spoke, Lin Yuxi had already passed through the flourishing flowers and stepped onto the steps of the pavilion. In a flash, Yi Zixu suddenly remembered something. Jiang Tianhao was in the pavilion. Did something really happen to him? In this season, there were already poisonous snakes. She didn't dare to think about it anymore. She didn't care about her manners. With one hand holding the hem of her dress, she quickly walked towards the pavilion. Ah! A sharp scream pierced through the night sky, startling the adults in the hall. They thought that something had happened to their child and rushed to the garden. In front of the pavilion in the dark, Lin Yuxi froze on the spot. She covered her mouth in shock. The flashlight in her hand had already rolled to the ground, and the dazzling light shone on the two men who were rolling in the room. What's wrong? What happened? Yi Zixu was the most anxious. She was the first to run behind Lin Yuxi. She swept the flashlight into the room and then screamed. Ah! Screams came one after another. The entrance was crowded with people. Beauty novel, Xinwu 799. Chapter 836. The flashlights in their hands shone neatly on the floor. Two men were lying on the floor, their clothes disheveled. One of them was on top of the other, their limbs intertwined. It looked like they were fighting, but it also looked like they were having sex. The two of them heard the screams and looked up at the entrance in panic. However, the glaring light made it difficult for them to look straight at it, so they had no choice but to quickly avoid it. Yi Zixu looked at the scene in front of her in shock. What was going on? Why was Tianhao and Xiao Ren entangled together? Perhaps it was because the incident happened too suddenly, but Jiang Tianhao and Xiao Ren did not let go of each other immediately. They only let go of each other in panic when the entrance was filled with people. Jiang Tianhao quickly got up from Xiao Ren's body. Just as he was about to explain, he was interrupted by Lin Yuxi's trembling voice. You! How could you do such a thing? Senior Jiang, you're Yi Zixu's boyfriend. And Xiao Ren, don't you like Yi Zixu? How could you and Senior Jiang? Jiang Tianhao almost spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. He and Xiao Ren were fighting. Why did it sound like they were doing something shameful when Lin Yuxi said it? Damn it. Xiao Ren quickly wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. It was from Jiang Tianhao's beating. He quickly explained, "You misunderstood. Yi Zixu was worried that Xiao Ren would say something he shouldn't say." She quickly interrupted him and said, "Tianhao, Xiao Ren, how could you fight in a place like this? If there's a misunderstanding, just talk it out and solve it." Lin Yuxi shook her head. Her tone was sympathetic and pitiful. He bit his lip until it bled. How pitiful. "Xiao Ren, you don't have to explain. We all understand. Don't worry, we won't say anything." After her reminder, everyone looked at Xiao Ren and his wife with even more ambiguous gazes. They even took the scars on their bodies from the fight as evidence of excessive love. Xiao Ren was so angry that he rolled his eyes. What was this? He still wanted to refute, but Jiang Tianhao suddenly punched him in the face and said angrily, "Xiao Ren, this is the lesson you deserve for coveting Zixu. If you harass her again in the future, I won't let you off." F***CK, Jiang Tianhao, haven't you had enough? Let's continue. The hot-blooded young man, Xiao Ren, was provoked by him. He forgot where he was and raised his fist to fight. A low, angry voice exploded in the air, "Ah, Ren, stop." Xiao Ren embarrassedly withdrew his fist and turned his head stiffly. Dad. Oh no, he had lost a lot of face today. When he went home, he would definitely be tied up and beaten by his old man. Xiao Qinggang was so embarrassed by his good-for-nothing son that his face turned red. His two chins trembled in anger. The people around them pretended not to see anything. Some disappeared, while others remained silent. However, one person did not give them face. He sneered and said in a lazy tone, "Wow, so you have this kind of hobby. I understand. Originally, the parties involved had explained that it was a fight, but someone still twisted the facts and misled everyone. It was really, well done." Lin Yuxi looked at Gu Fifan, her cousin, with admiration in her eyes. Gu Fifan. Xiao Ren exclaimed in shock. Jiang Tianhao was also stunned. Yi Zixu almost couldn't help but fly into a rage. What was going on? Gu Fifan should be doing something embarrassing with Ji Yuqi now. How could he appear here? Oh, she was going crazy. What exactly did she miss? Gu Fifan crossed his arms and slowly approached Xiao Ren with a relaxed and lazy look. Just now, he followed Ji Yuqi's advice and quickly returned to the hole. Unexpectedly, he met Yi Zixu and others on the way. He simply hid behind a tree and rested. He planned to go back after the effect of the drug in his body disappeared. He didn't expect to see such an interesting scene. He was not stupid. On the contrary, he was very smart. Based on some clues, he basically guessed that he had been schemed against. He also knew that the people who schemed against him were probably Xiao Ren and Yi Zixu. Of course, they didn't only scheme against him. They also schemed against Ji Yuqi, who had a special relationship with him. As for why Xiao Ren and Jiang Tianhao were schemed against, it should be Ji Yuqi's credit. Thinking of this, Gu Fifan glanced in the direction of the entrance. She, who was wearing a blue dress, stood expressionlessly behind the crowd. Beside her was Shenjie, who was wearing a black suit. Although the two of them didn't have any communication, they inexplicably made people feel that they were a good match. Gu Fifan's heart was slightly depressed. He turned his gaze away and didn't think about it anymore. He patted Xiao Ren's shoulder intimately and smiled very kindly. He whispered in a voice that only the two of them could hear, "Little brother Xiao Ren, big brother is really grateful for that glass of wine." Xiao Ren's whole body trembled. He stared straight at the smiling man in front of him. His back suddenly broke out in cold sweat. His heart was filled with coldness. Damn it, Gu Fifin knew. He knew that he had drugged his wine. He definitely wouldn't let him go. Xiao Ren had seen Gu Fifin's strength. Anyone who offended him would not have a good ending. Under his gaze, Xiao Ren's heart trembled. He clenched his fists tightly. His lips trembled a few times, but in the end, he didn't say anything. He chose to protect Yizisu. He forcefully closed his eyes and then opened them again. He forced a calm expression and smiled, "Brother Fifin, please give me some face." Xiao Ren was pleading with Gu Fifin. Even if he wanted to take revenge, he shouldn't make things too ugly for him. Most of the influential people in Ing City were gathered here. If they knew about his despicable actions, the reputation of the entire Xiao family would be ruined. The smile on Gu Fifin's face became even brighter. That handsome face was as beautiful as the peach blossoms in March. It was mesmerizing. However, at this moment, Xiao Ren was frightened. He was trembling with fear as he waited for Gu Fifin's verdict. He even ignored the current situation. "Ah, Ren, why are you still standing there? Hurry up and get your ass over here. Haven't you embarrassed yourself enough?" Xiao Xinggong's furious voice sounded like the sound of nature in Xiao Ren's ears. He hurriedly threw a pleading look at Gu Fifin. Then, as if he was being chased by a monster, he dashed to his father's side. Then, the nouveau riche Xiao Xinggang gave him a slap without hesitation. The crisp sound of the slap brought the Zhu family's banquet to an unhappy end. Xiao Qinggang stuffed his little brat into the car and left in a huff. Ji Bowen was discussing with Zhu Qiu and a few other family heads about investing in education. He didn't make it to the scene of the farce in time, but he still heard about the general situation. When he saw Jiang Tianhao and Yizisu again, his gloomy eyes hid his anger. He took a deep look at Jiang Tianhao and said in a low voice, "Look at the trouble you've caused." After he finished speaking, he stormed off in a huff. Chen Tingfang glared at Yizisu in exasperation. She hurriedly followed after Ji Bowen and gently consoled him. Ji Yuqi looked at Jiang Tianhao as if she wanted to say something. Her dark eyes flashed with worry and concern. She seemed to have a lot to say, but she didn't know where to start. Finally, she bit her lips and whispered, "Take care." Then, she carried her handbag and walked straight past him. Her delicate body looked even more delicate in the night. Jiang Tianhao's heart ached. He suddenly realized that at this time, the only person who was really worried about him and really cared about him was probably Ji Yuqi. If Ji Yuqi knew what he was thinking at this time, would she laugh 3 times and scold the heavens for being blind? "Tianhao." A soft voice entered his ears. A small white hand tentatively held his hand. Yizisu's worried face entered his line of sight. Her red lips moved slightly and she whispered, "Tianhao, don't worry. I believe in you. Everything will be fine." Seeing her beautiful face and listening to her soft voice, Jiang Tianhao no longer felt happy. Only disgust was left. It was this woman who was stupid and vicious. She actually used him to deal with Yuqi. In the end, she was schemed against by Gu Fifin and poured dirty water on him. Yes, Jiang Tianhao didn't suspect Ji Yuqi who loved him deeply. He only thought that Gu Fifin saw through his plot and beat him at his own game. He brought everyone here to embarrass himself. Jiang Tianhao really wanted to shake her hand off, but he didn't. This woman was still useful to him. Hundreds of thoughts flashed through his mind, but he didn't show it on his face. He squeezed her hand. "Let's go." On the way back, the Ji family split into 3 groups. Ji Bowen and Chen Tingfang left first. Ji Yuqi drove one car, Yizisu and Jiang Tianhao drove the other. Ji Yuqi drove the car and shuttled back and forth between the traffic. The neon lights outside the window kept flashing and the car was filled with melancholy nostalgic music. Her thoughts drifted and she couldn't help but return to the past. That night, she went to Zhu Zhu's birthday party with Yi Zixu. Yi Zixu was an elegant and noble princess who was in the limelight, but she was a notorious vicious woman. Fortunately, her Prince Charming, Jiang Tianhao, was always by her side. When she was playing in the garden, Ji Yuqi also received a small note like today, asking her to meet at the rockery behind the grove. The note was signed by Tang Feng. Even if she was abandoned by Tang Feng, Ji Yuqi never hated him, let alone suspected him. Therefore, she hid it from Jiang Tianhao and quietly went to the appointment. It was dark behind the rockery. When she approached, an arm suddenly stretched out and dragged her to the back of the rockery. That person was Gu Fifan, who was drugged. Gu Fifan pressed her against the stone. He tore off her clothes and carelessly kissed and stroked her. She struggled in panic. Just when she was about to despair, a group of people suddenly appeared in front of her. Her clothes were untidy and she was in a mess. She wanted to explain, but no one believed her. Tang Feng said bluntly that he did not give her any note. The other party, Gu Fifan, drank too much and fainted, so no one defended her. Everyone scolded her for stealing Zhu Zhu's boyfriend. Zhu Zhu slapped her. Mrs. Zhu was angry and kicked her out of the party without caring about the Ji family's face. Only Jiang Tianhao trusted her and left with her. From then on, Ji Yuqi was dead set on Jiang Tianhao. She loved him so much that she wanted to marry no one but him. Of course, even if she wanted to marry someone else, no one would want to marry a woman with a bad reputation. From then on, Ji Bowen was completely disappointed with her daughter. At that time, Han had died in an accident. Ji Bowen could only put his hope on his future son-in-law, Jiang Tianhao. He let him enter the Ji group and familiarize himself with the company's business. He taught him step by step, so he personally cultivated an ingrate. In the end, he took away the power of the Ji group. Welfare, Xinwu 799. Chapter 837. It could be said that Jiang Tianhao's road to power was paved with Ji Yuqi's humiliation and sadness. The sad thing was that Ji Yuqi had never doubted him and Yi Zixu. She had always foolishly thought that it was because of her bad luck that she encountered so many bad things. Thinking of how stupid she used to be, Ji Yuqi wanted to slap herself a few times. Ji Yuqi gripped the steering wheel tightly and her eyes gradually turned cold. She realized that some things had changed because of her rebirth. In her previous life, Tang Feng was used as a shield by Yi Zixu. This time, Tang Feng didn't attend the banquet because he wasn't feeling well. So, Yi Zixu took the risk and asked her out in Jiang Tianhao's name. Unfortunately, Jiang Tianhao had some feelings for Yuqi in this life. Yi Zixu was worried that Jiang Tianhao wouldn't hurt Yuqi, so she could only do things behind his back. If he found out that Yi Zixu's plot ended up harming himself, there would definitely be a rift between the two of them. It wasn't because he cared about Yuqi, but because he was used to controlling the situation and wouldn't allow others to deceive him. Thinking of this, Ji Yuqi raised her eyebrows mockingly. Let this pair of true love test their feelings with time. Her phone suddenly rang, interrupting her reverie. Ji Yuqi pressed the answer button and heard Gu Fifan's magnetic voice. Chi-Chi, can you explain what happened tonight now? Ji Yuqi's tone was indifferent, as if she was talking about the weather. You were drugged by Xiao Ren and tricked to hide behind the rockery. I was already prepared and saved your reputation. Oh, right, although you don't have any reputation to speak of. Gu Fifan smiled bitterly. Do you have to humiliate me like this to be happy? Forget it, since you saved what little reputation I had left, I'll forgive you. Tell me, how did you get Xiao Ren and Jiang Tianhao together? I used Yi Zixu's name to trick Xiao Ren into going to the pavilion. As for Jiang Tianhao, he was rather unlucky. In order to trick me, Yi Zixu had to send him away, and the best place to do so was the only way to get to the fake mountain, the garden. Ji analyzed the situation in detail. She did not intend to hide anything from him. In some ways, the two of them were really fated. In her previous life, Yizisu had schemed against them, and both of them were unlucky together. In this life, they were schemed against again. This was also the reason why Ji was so kind to save him from his burning desire. Gu Fifan clicked his tongue and sighed. So you're playing psychological tactics. You're really good. Ji snorted. Thanks for the compliment, Mr. Gu. I beg you to use your brain when you do things in the future. Don't be used by others. I don't want to be involved with you anymore. Why did Yizisu always want to involve her and Gu Fifan together? This was really a question worth pondering. The corner of Gu Fifan's mouth twitched. Hey, you're kicking me to the curb after I've outlived my usefulness. Last time at the old mansion, you were the one who wanted to get involved with me. Why are you blaming me now? Ji apologized without any sincerity. Then I'm really sorry. Gu Fifan was almost angered to death by her. The next second, he was full of energy again and chuckled mischievously. Chi, since they all want to involve us together, then we'll do what everyone wants and be together. Don't worry, I won't despise you. Sorry, I despise you. Ji raised her eyebrows. She got out of the car and closed the door. She didn't want to have a meaningless conversation with him. That's it, I'm home. Bye. Wait a minute. Ouch, little rascal, you actually dared to hang up on me. On the other side, Gu Fifan pounded the steering wheel in annoyance. Unfortunately, the little girl could no longer hear him. After the incident at the birthday party, the news of Xiao family's young master being a pervert quickly spread. Xiao Qinggang was ridiculed by the group of people on the board of directors. He lost all his face. When he went back, he gave Xiao Ren a good beating. Poor Xiao Ren, his old injuries had not healed and new injuries were added. At this moment of physical and mental injury, Xiao Ren wanted to seek comfort from the goddess. He didn't expect the goddess to coldly tell him that she had never asked him to go to any pavilion and had never liked him. She asked him not to misunderstand. Xiao Ren's young man's heart suddenly shattered into pieces. The sad thing was that Gu Fifan started to take revenge. The news that Xiao Ren and Jiang Tianhao messed around at Zhu Zhu's birthday party spread throughout the school. There was a post on the BBS called, "Who is the top and who is the bottom, the Tsundere Queen and the Black-Bellied Emperor?" The post quickly became popular. In the post, Xiao Ren became the Tsundere Queen, and Jiang Tianhao was naturally the Black-Bellied Emperor. The post owner made a detailed analysis of the attributes of the two people's top and bottom. His moral integrity fell to the ground, which attracted the howling of the Fujoshis. They all raised their flags and supported Xiao Ren and Jiang Tianhao to be together. The two men who were gossiped about smashed the mouse at the same time and almost overturned the computer. Ouch, look, that is the Black-Bellied Emperor. He is so handsome and stylish. His gentle appearance wraps his black-bellied heart. Ouch, I can't take it anymore. I'm going to faint. A girl's eyes were starry and she looked infatuated. What the hell, who is the woman holding the Black-Bellied Emperor's arm? It destroys the beauty too much. The Black-Bellied Emperor belongs to the Tsundere Queen. A girl stomped her feet and roared at Yizisu. The Tsundere Queen and the Black-Bellied Emperor are true love. The one called Yi something, quickly let go of the Tsundere Queen and let the Tsundere Queen do it. Tsundere Queen, where are you? Your man is about to be snatched away. Whenever Jiang Tianhao and Yizisu held hands and showed their affection on campus, they would be surrounded by a group of Fujoshis. The chatter of the wolf girls annoyed Jiang Tianhao, and Yizisu's face became more and more ugly. both of them were roaring in their hearts. Fujoshis are really a ferocious species. I is obviously heterosexual, okay. This farce finally came to an end one afternoon. Under the covetous eyes of the wolf girls, Jiang Tianhao and Xiao Ren walked into the office of the Academic Affairs Office. The Academic Affairs Director expelled them for violating the school rules and seriously affecting the school's teaching order, living order, and public management order. Jiang Tianhao's face was as white as a sheet. He was already in his 4th year of university. If he was expelled, it would mean that he had wasted his 4 years in university. Moreover, those big companies would not hire a student who was expelled because of his bad behavior. This meant that his whole life would be stained. He tried to suppress the anger in his heart, clenched his fists tightly, stood up suddenly, and argued with reason, "Director, I have an objection to this punishment. I want to appeal." Xiao Ren also stood up and said loudly, "I want to appeal too." According to the rules, if a student was not satisfied with the punishment given by the school, he could appeal. The school set up a special student appeal handling committee to accept students' appeals for cancellation of admission, expulsion, or disciplinary punishment. The director pushed the glasses on the bridge of his nose and smiled. "Okay, students. Please submit a written appeal to the appeal handling committee according to the rules." Coming out of the Academic Affairs Office, the two people, who were like fire and water, miraculously reached a tacit agreement. They must unite and overturn the school's punishment decision. Jiang Tianhao took the lead and reached out a hand of friendship. "Xiao Ren, let's put aside our prejudice and work hard together." Xiao Ren hesitated for a moment and held Jiang Tianhao's hand. "I was too immature in the past. Jiang Tianhao, I will not fight with you for Yi Zissou in the future. You must treat her well." Even if his goddess did not mean it, he still could not bear to see her suffer. Jiang Tianhao nodded, his face was cold and his eyes were deep. No one could guess what he was thinking. Originally, it was a simple handshake between two men. Unexpectedly, someone secretly took a picture of it and posted it on the school's website. The wolf girls cheered. The Thunder Queen and the black-bellied king finally broke through the world and got together. Someone edited the picture of the two, made it into a video, and posted it on the internet. It implicated their background and attracted more attention. It even implicated the Xiao group and Ji group. The matter was getting bigger and bigger, and it was developing in an uncontrollable direction. "Tianhao, don't take those people's nonsense to heart. You will be fine. Tianhao, don't worry. No matter what, I will always be on your side. Tianhao, I have saved a secret stash of money over the years. If we can't stay in Ing City, we will study abroad. Everything will be fine." Yi Zissou seized every opportunity to show her loyalty in front of Jiang Tianhao. Jiang Tianhao was not touched at all. He only became more and more annoyed. This woman was the main culprit. She caused him to be so miserable. She still had the nerve to comfort him and give him charity. When a person loves you, all your shortcomings become merits. When a person doesn't love you, he can no longer see your merits and will only magnify your shortcomings. Jiang Tianhao and Xiao Ren had to bear the pressure of Mount Tai and submit a petition to the complaint handling committee. However, they did not know that Gu Fifen's grandfather was the director of the school. It was a piece of cake for him to target anyone. The complaint was rejected and the original punishment was upheld. Jiang Tianhao and Xiao Ren were not satisfied. In the end, they submitted a written complaint to the Provincial Education Administration. This incident caused a huge uproar in Ing City. The Provincial Education Administration sent 2 investigators to investigate and collect evidence. This time, Gu Fifen did not do anything behind the scenes. Hence, after several twists and turns, the investigators finally found the truth. They proved that Jiang Tianhao and Xiao Ren were innocent. The public was blinded by malicious rumors. In the end, the education department overruled the decision to expel them from school. The school reconsidered the matter and gave them a warning. However, Jiang Tianhao and Xiao Ren's names were remembered by everyone in Ying City. Regardless of whether it was out of goodwill or malice, their reputations were tainted. As Jiang Tianhao's future father-in-law, Ji Bowen lost all his face. His attitude towards Jiang Tianhao became colder and colder. Chen Tingfang originally wanted to persuade Ji Bowen to let Jiang Tianhao enter the Ji group after graduation. However, she had no choice but to give up on this idea. She also tried to persuade Yi Zhisu to give up on Jiang Tianhao and find another outstanding man. However, Yi Zhisu was too addicted. She was unwilling to give up. She kept fantasizing that she would stay by his side when he was down and that he would not abandon her when he was successful. He would be loyal to her and so on. A month later, the expulsion incident finally came to an end. Jiang Tianhao went from being a proud young man of the capital university to a commoner who was despised by everyone. Everyone looked at him with prejudice. Although he was already in his 4th year and did not care about the reputation in the school, the difference was too big. He could not accept it. Beauty novel, Xinwu 799. At this moment, Jiang Tianhao only felt heartache and shame. He and Yi Zhisu had done many things to let Yuqi down. He didn't expect Yuqi to be so kind. She actually didn't bear a grudge against Zhisu and even asked him to treat her well. At the same time, he hated Yi Zhisu even more. It was because of Yi Zhisu's viciousness that he had been separated from Yuqi. If Yi Zhisu was no longer around, he and Yuqi could be together. No, he couldn't think like that. After all, Yi Zhisu was his first woman. Ji Yuqi saw Jiang Tianhao's constantly changing expressions and the undercurrent in his eyes. She could guess what he was thinking. She couldn't help but sneer in her heart. What you can't have is the best. See, true love is nothing more than that. She gathered her thoughts and took out a document from her handbag and handed it to him. Her long eyelashes were still tear-stained as she said softly, "Senior, this is the information I've compiled on some companies. These companies have some connections with our Ji family. If you're willing to work in these companies, I'll ask Dad to recommend you." The information was very detailed. It included the introduction of the company's main business, the company's organizational structure, the main people in charge, and even the preference of the people in charge. It was obvious that she had put in a lot of effort. This was no different from sending charcoal in snowy weather to Jiang Tianhao. He was deeply moved. He firmly believed that Ji Yuqi loved him deeply. As long as Yuqi was willing to speak up for him in front of Ji Bowen, he would still find a good job and then scheme. He clenched the information in his hands and gazed affectionately into Ji Yuqi's eyes. He looked deeply moved. "Yuqi, you've treated me so well. Yuqi, give me 2 years. I'll marry you grandly." Ji Yuqi's pretty face blushed. Her eyelashes fluttered a few times. She turned her face away, not daring to look at him. She mumbled, "We've agreed. You can't let Zhisu down." I'll leave first." Her cheeks were flushed red. It was as if she was being chased by a monster. She ran away in a panic, leaving only her fragrant scent in the air. Jiang Tianhao looked at her flustered back. The corners of his lips curled up, and his bright black eyes sparkled with satisfaction. "Yuqi, I won't let go. Even if you're the daughter of my enemy, I won't let go. I'll defeat your father and then marry you. I'll let your father's life go for your sake. We'll definitely be happy." Fortunately, Ji Yuqi didn't know what he was thinking. Otherwise, she would have been angered to death by his strange logic. After running to a place where Jiang Tianhao couldn't see, Ji Yuqi slowed down her pace and walked slowly to the parking lot. She had calculated that Jiang Tianhao wouldn't give up such a good opportunity. Unfortunately, what he didn't know was that she had a certain amount of connections in those companies. No matter which company he chose, he wouldn't have a good life. Chen Tingfang couldn't sit still anymore. She thought that after a month, Gao Qiao Technology's financial problems would be solved and the stock price would rise. Unexpectedly, Gao Qiao Technology's stock price fell faster than a parachute. When she bought it, it was more than 50 yuan. Now, it had fallen to 9.50 yuan. If it fell any further, her 2 million yuan would only be left with a few 100,000 yuan. She was so anxious that she had a meeting with the financial planner. The financial planner comforted her and asked her to wait a little longer. Wait a little longer. If she waited a little longer, her 2 million yuan would only be left with a few 100,000 yuan. Chen Tingfang shook off the financial planner and called Lin Tai directly. She was so anxious that she couldn't be bothered to exchange pleasantries. She went straight to the point and asked, Lin Tai, Gao Qiao Technology's stock price has fallen a lot. What do you plan to do? Lin Tai didn't react for a moment. The stock price fell. What does it have to do with me? Chen Tingfang forced herself to be patient. Didn't you buy Gao Qiao Technology stock? Now their stock price has fallen a lot. I'm just asking if you've heard any news from Qingli. Are you going to sell it or continue to hold it? Lin Tai had a sudden realization and shouted, You bought Gao Qiao Technology stock. Chen Tingfang frowned. Yes. Lin Tai said anxiously, You're really making me anxious. Didn't you say that you weren't interested in investing in stocks? I thought you wouldn't buy it, so I didn't inform you. Actually, Qingli told me later that although the Yu family is very powerful, there are internal conflicts in their family. Gao Qiao Technology might be in trouble. Look, the financial director who exposed the financial scandal is Yu Lei's uncle. Chen Tingfang's mind was about to explode. She couldn't hear what Lin Tai said at the end. She knew that she was in trouble this time. Gao Qiao Technology's stock price would fall even more. She had to make a prompt decision to sell it quickly. Otherwise, the losses would be even worse. As if to verify her guess, the news suddenly broke out. It said that Gao Qiao Technology's employees had said that the company was indeed in a financial crisis. Their main business was showing signs of losses. If they couldn't repay the bank loan, the bank would use a few of the company's factories to repay the debt. In short, all the signs indicated that Gao Qiao Technology was galloping on the road to bankruptcy. When she saw the news on the big screen in the square, Chen Tingfang was so anxious that she almost fainted. A pair of slender and fair hands supported her firmly, and a clear and pleasant voice flowed past her ears like a gurgling stream. Madam, are you all right? Chen Tingfang leaned against a broad and firm chest. That person's strong arms supported her waist. She took a deep breath and slowly opened her eyes. She turned her head and looked at that person. With just one glance, she was stunned. It was a very handsome face. Handsome eyebrows, a high nose bridge, and a caring and warm smile on his young face. It was like a ray of sunlight that shone into the depths of one's heart. His eyes were very beautiful. They were clear, bright, and sparkled with a pure smile without a trace of haze. His entire being was like a radiant object, attracting the gazes of others. His casual suit made his figure tall and straight. His young body was full of vitality, but it didn't make people feel that he was childish. This man was very charming. This sentence suddenly popped up in Chen Tingfang's mind. For no reason, she suddenly felt ashamed of herself for having such thoughts. Her cheeks heated up and she hurriedly withdrew from his embrace. She brushed the hair by her ear as if to cover it up and smiled slightly. Thank you, I'm fine. That's good. My name is Xiao Yihan. Nice to meet you. Xiao Yihan smiled brightly and politely extended his right arm. Chen Tingfang politely shook his right hand. My surname is Chen. Thank you for today. I still have something to do. See you next time. Okay. Goodbye, Sister Chen. Xiao Yihan waved his hand coolly. His handsome face looked like a god under the sunlight. Seeing the handsome man's back disappear into the distance, Chen Tingfang couldn't help but sigh. It was so good to be young, full of passion and vitality. After getting into the car, she immediately contacted the financial planner and instructed him to sell all of Gao Qiao's shares. The financial planner persuaded her again and asked her to wait patiently for a few more days. Chen Tingfang was really impatient. She flipped out and said, "Please do as I say. No matter what the consequences are, I will bear them myself. I will not trouble you." Actually, the financial planner was waiting for these words. Those unreasonable rich ladies were the scariest. It was fine if they earned money, but as long as they lost money, they would push the blame to the financial planner. Chen Tingfang sold all of her shares. It was as if her heart had been gouged out. She was in so much pain that she couldn't tell anyone about it. Attention, Hongcha 866. Chapter 839. However, as she expected, the stock price continued to fall. When it fell to more than 5 yuan, Chen Tingfang's anger dissipated a little. She felt lucky that she didn't continue to hold shares. While most people were frantically dumping their Gaoqiu stocks, one person was frantically buying them. She was Ji Yuqi. After Grandpa Su Jingheng passed away, he left a legacy to Ji Yuqi and her brother, which was managed by Ji Bowen. When they turned 18 years old, they could freely use it. Ji Yuqi had already obtained the right to freely use the legacy. She registered a company abroad and used the legacy to buy all the shares of Gao Qiao. Ji Yuqi didn't hide anything from Ji Yunhan, so it aroused his strong objection. Ji Yunhan couldn't help but grab his hair angrily. "Sister, what the hell are you doing? Why do you want to buy Gao Qiao's shares? They are facing bankruptcy now." Ji Yuqi smiled faintly. "Han, the Yu family is one of the top families in Hanqing. Yu Lei is Yu Lindong's most valued grandson. Yu Lindong won't ignore Yu Lei. Just wait and see. The Yu family will definitely help Yu Lei. It's only a matter of time." Yu Lindong was a cunning old fox. His sons were all useless. Now he put all his hopes on his eldest grandson, Yu Lei. Unfortunately, Yu Lei had been studying abroad for many years. After returning to China, he gradually got out of Yu Lindong's control. Yu Lindong didn't do anything. Of course, he wanted to force Yu Lei into a desperate situation. He had no choice but to beg the old man for help. Then he would not only save the Yu family's face, but also gain his grandson's respect. It was like killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Ji Yuqi didn't know these inside stories, but in her previous life, she had accidentally heard the conversation between Shenjie and Zhe. That was why she knew so much. She also took this opportunity to set a trap for Chen Tingfang. Thinking of Shenjie, Ji Yuqi's lips couldn't help but curl up. A hint of a smile appeared in her beautiful eyes. That childish man. Yesterday, he'd asked her to deliver lunch to his company and then dragged her to work with him. He'd peeked at her from time to time. Did he think she didn't know? Sis. Ji Yunhan couldn't help but shiver when his sister, who was chatting with him, suddenly went into a daze and even giggled foolishly. He jumped in front of her and waved his hand vigorously. Ji Yuqi's eyes turned and saw her brother staring at her with a smirk. Her face couldn't help but heat up. She coughed dryly and continued the topic from before. "So, that's how it is. Gao Qiao will come back from the dead. If we buy stocks at a low price now, we can make a huge profit. Ji Yunhan squeezed his butt to her side and poked her arm with a smirk. Sis, you've been acting strange recently. Are you in love? Her relationship with Shinja couldn't be exposed for the time being, but Ah-han was her brother and she trusted him completely. She thought about it and smiled as she patted his head. If I say yes, will you object? Ji Yunhan's heart thumped. She was in love indeed. But the smile on his face became even more obsequious. That depends on who it is. If it's a bad guy like Jiang Tianhao, of course I'll object. Ji Yuqi bit her lip. Last time, she lied to Ah-han in front of Shinja and said that Shinja was her friend's brother. Shinja's face was full of resentment. Oh, she suddenly didn't want to disappoint him. Ji Yuqi made up her mind and suddenly turned around. She held Ji Yunhan's shoulders with both hands and said seriously, Ah-han, I'll take you to see him tonight. But you have to keep it a secret from me and not tell Dad, okay? Ji Yunhan's heart was burning with anger. Wow, this was too hateful. That wild man actually made his sister fall so deep that she had to see his family. He would never allow it. He grinned, revealing his white teeth. His gaze was unusually strange. Okay, I'm looking forward to seeing him. Noon. Shinja sat behind his desk and listened to the department manager's report. In the meantime, he raised his wrist to look at the time. His handsome brows furrowed slightly. The department manager wiped the cold sweat on his forehead. Did he do a bad job with his report? The vice president had already secretly looked at his watch 5 times. The more he spoke, the softer his voice became and the less confident he became. Shinja's brows furrowed even tighter and then quickly smoothed out. He glanced at him with his dark eyes and said indifferently, "Hungry?" The department manager hurriedly shook his head. "No, then speak louder." Big Boss impatiently knocked on the table with his finger. The department manager's heart and body trembled. He hurriedly raised his voice. In the empty room, only his loud voice could be heard. Shinja impatiently knocked on the table again. Too loud. Boo-hoo, Big Boss is so hard to please. The department manager's heart was filled with bitter tears. Knock, knock, knock. Shinja's cold expression immediately changed. A gentle smile appeared on his iceberg face, as if the ice and snow had melted. His voice also had a trace of imperceptible gentleness. Come in. The department manager suspected that he was hallucinating and rubbed his eyes in disbelief. Oh, he wasn't hallucinating. As the door opened, the smile on Big Boss' face became even more obvious. The department manager wanted to sneak a peek at the person who made Big Boss transform from an iceberg man into a gentleman, but he didn't dare to. He could only stand stiffly. Perhaps his stiff temperament was too outstanding. Big Boss rewarded him with a look and said indifferently, "There are still a few problems in the report. Redo it. You may leave." The department manager respectfully said, "Okay, I'll finish it as soon as possible." The sound of high heels was getting closer and closer. A woman's teasing voice could be heard. Young master, it's bad enough that you've become a workaholic, but you've also implicated your employees. You're too hateful. Cold sweat appeared on the department manager's forehead again. This woman was too bold. She actually dared to speak to the vice president, who was known as the cold-faced devil. She was simply courting death. The strange thing was that Big Boss didn't get angry. There was an obvious tone of joy in his voice. He looked at him as if he had found his conscience. Manager Gao, go and eat first. Give me this report tomorrow. Yes. Manager Gao was so touched that he was about to cry. Was he really abused too badly? Before he left, he looked gratefully at the woman who spoke up for him. He couldn't help but be stunned. She was very beautiful. She was wearing a simple bohemian dress that looked like a fairy's feather dress on her. Her fluffy curly hair naturally draped over her shoulders. Her facial features were exquisite and beautiful, like a doll placed in a display window. She was so beautiful that it made people gasp in admiration. The woman's eyes wandered and she nodded at him with a smile. His young heart was beating violently in his chest and his cheeks were burning uncontrollably. Big Boss's cold gaze turned to him with an expression that said, "Hurry up and leave. Don't be a third wheel." Manager Gao's heart trembled and he hurriedly left the office. Closing the door, Manager Gao wanted to cry. Damn it, he was actually staring at Big Boss's woman like a love-struck fool. If Big Boss found out, he would definitely make him die a horrible death. Big Boss Shinja didn't know that he had abused his subordinate until he was about to cry. He walked to Ji Yuqi's side with a straight face and hugged her tightly in his arms. His tone wasn't very good. "Why are you so late today?" It was 10 minutes later than the previous few times. He had already checked his watch 5 times. Ji Yuqi couldn't help but raise the corners of her lips. Her slender fingers poked his tense cheeks, and her sparkling eyes twinkled mischievously. "My young master, there was a traffic jam on the road. Today, there's your favorite crystal hoof. It said that you'll be nourished by whatever you eat. You can run even faster after eating hoof." Her soft red lips were like a blooming rose in the morning, shining with a mesmerizing luster under the sunlight. His deep eyes darkened slightly and he slowly lowered his head, moving closer to her cheek. A strong and oppressive aura arose spontaneously. Ji Yuqi couldn't help but feel her heart pounding. Her cheeks were slightly hot as she pushed his chest and said softly, "Stop fooling around. Let's eat." His dark eyes stared fixedly at her lips, lingering. Just as her cheeks were getting redder and redder, almost turning into a tomato, he quickly pecked her lips lightly and then let go of her as if nothing had happened. He calmly opened the food box she had brought and took out the dishes one by one. Ji Yuqi touched her lips in a daze. She was speechless. Could this man be any more childish? He had obviously kissed her, but he was pretending that nothing had happened. She didn't know that although the man she was silently criticizing was expressionless and calm, his ears were quietly turning red. The afternoon was wonderful. With her company, Shinja's work efficiency increased by a lot. Although a certain young woman was just wandering around in the office, his heart was filled with joy as long as he looked up and saw her. Shinja. Ji Yuqi sat on a certain someone's desk, her 2 slender legs swinging in tandem. There was a fawning smile on her coquettish face and her voice was sweet and soft. "Shinja, do you have time tonight?" Shinja's hands paused and he looked up at the young woman on the desk. She was sitting sideways, her slender and fair neck curved into a beautiful arc because of her tilting of her head. Her delicate little chin was slightly lowered, and her pair of clear and bright eyes were sparkling. The corners of her lips were slightly raised, and she looked like a sly and cute fox. He didn't know what she was thinking. He felt as if there was a small hand gently caressing his heart. A tingling feeling spread from the soles of his feet to the top of his head. He couldn't help but reach out and rub her soft hair. His voice was low and gentle. "And, what are your plans?" Ji Yuqi's eyes curved into beautiful crescents. "Well, tonight, I want to introduce my brother to you." "Okay." Shinja agreed immediately, as if he wasn't angry that she didn't want to introduce him to her father. Ji Yuqi didn't need to say the words she had prepared to appease him. "Then where do you think we should meet?" Ji Yuqi was in a difficult position. She was worried that Chen Tingfang and her mother would follow them and find out about her and Shinja. Welfare, Hongcha 866. Chapter 840. Shinja pinched her nose naturally. "Let's go to Golden Bay." You can head there directly after your afternoon class. I'll get Zay to pick up your brother from school. Indeed, this way, they would be able to fool everyone. Yuchi nodded in satisfaction. She gracefully jumped off the desk, glanced at the time, and said with a smile, "All right, young Master Shin, you can work hard. I'm going to school for class." Her class was between 3 and 5 in the afternoon. This was a good time for her to deliver lunch to a certain foodie before heading to school. Shinja stretched out his long arm and pulled Yuchi into his embrace. He kissed her on the cheek and said in a mellow voice, "Be careful on the road." Yuchi was as obedient as a kitten. She replied softly, Under the setting sun, the base seemed to be shrouded in a thin layer of golden gauze. The seawater washed over the beach and it was peaceful. In the villa at Golden Bay, the atmosphere was not very pleasant. Ji Yunhan's eyes were spitting fire as he glared at the tall man in front of him. That man's hands and claws were actually hugging his sister's waist without the slightest scruple. Even if he was Ing City's famous eldest young master of the Shin family, even if he was his sister's boyfriend, he still couldn't take advantage of his sister without his approval. "Let go." Ji Yunhan squeezed out these two words one by one from between his teeth. Shinja glanced at him expressionlessly. He didn't know what he was thinking, but he actually let go of Yuchi's waist. However, in the next second, he immediately used his left hand to hold her right hand tightly. Ji Yunhan was almost amused by his actions. The dignified eldest young master of the Shin family was actually playing such a childish trick in front of him. Wasn't this shameful? He snorted and stepped forward. He grabbed Shinja's hand without hesitation, intending to separate their hands. He didn't expect Shinja to be so strong even though he looked thin and weak. He wasn't affected by him at all. He looked at him coldly and put his arm around Yuchi's waist again in a show of force. Ji Yunhan was so angry that he was about to vomit blood. If it wasn't for his sister, he would have directly sent that shameless man flying with his fist. All right. You too, aren't you childish? Yuchi hurriedly stepped forward and stood between the two people who were like fire and water. She was deeply worried. Ahan seemed to hate Shinja very much. She didn't know how to persuade Ahan to accept Shinja. Ji Yunhan glared at Shinja and arrogantly raised his chin. "Let me tell you, if you want to be my sister's boyfriend, you have to go through me." Shinja was expressionless and his voice was flat. Condition. The corners of Ji Yunhan's mouth curled into a cold sneer. "Beat me." Yuchi's mouth twitched. She almost knelt down in front of her brother. "Ahan, although your kung fu is very good, you are facing a super strong opponent. You have no chance of winning." Shinja raised his eyebrows. His eyes became interested and his lips curled into a light smile. "All right, let's fight." "All right, let's start now." Ji Yunhan was eager to give it a try. His eyes were shining with excitement. Yuchi hurriedly stretched out her arm to separate the two of them. "Don't be rash. Let's sit down and talk. Big sister, the problems between men should be solved with fists. You should move aside a bit. It wouldn't be good if I hurt you." Ji Yunhan carelessly patted his chest and impatiently pushed her to the side. Yuchi was speechless. "Hey, brother, sister is really doing it for your own good." Shinja stroked Yuchi's hair as if he was comforting a small animal. He said gently, "Don't worry, I will be merciful." "Shinja, you are insulting my dignity as a man. I don't need you to be merciful." Ji Yunhan very domineeringly assumed a dual posture. That heroic and unrivaled aura that assaulted Yuchi's senses gave her a bad premonition. The two of them stayed in the villa's training room for a long time. When the door opened, Yuchi immediately rushed over. She thought that she would see Ji Yunhan being beaten up until he looked like a pig. She did not expect to see Shinja being beaten up until he looked like a pig. When did Ahan's martial arts become unparalleled? He actually defeated Shinja. Very quickly, the shock in her heart was covered by pity. Shinja had obviously been beaten up badly. His handsome face was red and swollen. She hurriedly stood on her tiptoes to check the injuries on his face. She did not hide the deep pain in her eyes as she anxiously asked Zay, where is the medicine in your house? Please help me get it. It's okay. It doesn't hurt. Shinja enjoyed her concern. He held her cold little hand and the corners of his cold lips curled up slightly. His entire face softened. Although his face was full of scars, it did not affect his handsomeness at all. Instead, it added a bit of rough charm. Shinja, you're really too much. I asked you to be merciful, not to be beaten up. Don't you know how to avoid it? Ji-Yuchi's heart ached as she smoothed the messy hair on his forehead to his face and wiped the sweat on his forehead with a tissue. Sis, you're too much. You've forgotten about your younger brother now that you have a boyfriend. You don't even care about me. Ji Yunhan's face was gloomy as he clutched his chest. His chest was aching faintly. At this time, Ji Yunhan had already brought over the external wound spray. Ji-Yuchi carefully sprayed the medicine on Shinja as she turned around to glare at Ji Yunhan. Ahan, I haven't even scolded you yet. How can you be so heavy-handed? You've beaten him until his nose is bruised and his face is swollen. How is he going to go out and meet people? Ji Yunhan glanced at Shinja's half-smile expression and was completely provoked. He jumped up 3 feet high and almost couldn't help but scream. Shinja, that fellow was too shameless. He actually used the trick of injuring himself to gain sympathy. During the competition, Shinja kept putting his face in front of him. He didn't know what was going on, so he punched him a few times and left a lot of marks on his face. He didn't expect that Shinja would hit his chest and back every time. It was obviously very painful, but outsiders couldn't tell that he was injured. Ji Yunhan really wanted to expose Shinja, this shameless fellow's true colors. However, he couldn't because the two of them had made a verbal agreement before the competition. If you agree to a bet, you have to accept defeat. They can't slander each other. Shinja, this man was too black-bellied. Everything was calculated by him. Ji Yunhan was very angry, but other than anger, he also admired Shinja. He was very clear that Shinja had left some leeway during the competition. If Shinja really went all out, he would be a corpse now. This kind of strong and scheming man who loved his sister deeply should be able to protect his sister. Ji Yunhan's heart was sour and astringent. In the end, he still decided to reluctantly accept Shinja for the sake of his sister's happiness. In the dining room, the atmosphere was very strange. Shinja sat at the dining table with bruises on his face. Ji Yunhan sat on the other side expressionlessly. The two of them looked at each other and it was as if they could hear the crackling of sparks in the air. Ji-Yuchi sat in the middle of them. She looked at one and then looked at the other and helplessly said, "Tonight's meal was personally prepared by me. Can you guys give me some face and stop playing the game of flirting with each other?" Humph. Ji Yunhan was the first to turn his face away. With a proud tone, he said, "Shinja, I can admit that you're my sister's boyfriend, but you have to promise me one thing first." Shinja's gaze was calm. "Say it." Ji Yunhan suddenly grinned sinisterly. "From now on, you're only allowed to treat my elder sister well. You have to spoil her, you can't deceive her. You have to do everything you promise her. Every word you say to her has to be sincere. You're not allowed to lie to her or scold her. You have to care for her. When others bully her, you have to be the first to help her. When she's happy, you have to be with her. When she's unhappy, you have to make her happy. You have to always think that she's the most beautiful. You have to see her even in your dreams. Ji Yuqi covered her face. Han, this is too much. She couldn't listen to him anymore. Shinja's gaze was focused. He listened to every word he said seriously. There was no expression on his face, but strangely, it made people feel that he was very serious and solemn. It was as if he was attending a sacred ceremony. After Ji Yunhan finished his last sentence, Shinji, who was a proud and rational man, unexpectedly turned to Ji Yuqi and held her fingers. He slowly said, "From now on, I will only love you and not lie to you. I will do everything I promise you. Every word I say to you is the truth. I won't bully you, I won't scold you, I believe in you. If anyone bullies you, I will be the first to help you. When you're happy, I will be with you. When you're unhappy, I will make you happy. I will always think that you're the most beautiful. I will dream of you. Only in my dreams." Ji Yuqi should have found it funny that the two people closest to her said such a classic line from a movie as a vow. She really did find it funny. However, she couldn't help but tear up. Why did these two despicable guys do this for her? Her beautiful eyes were covered with a layer of mist, and her heart was extremely sour. She really wanted to say something to let them understand how touched she was, but what came out was, "You two, stop messing around. If you continue, I'm really going to become a lion roaring from Hedong." Ji Yunhan laughed out loud. "Sister, you're obviously very touched. If you're touched, you should say it. If you don't say it, how would we know that you're touched?" Shinja didn't say anything and just naturally rubbed her soft hair. His deep eyes surged with a bright light as he stared at her attentively and affectionately. "Chi-Chi, vows aren't just for show. I will do it. I will love you for a lifetime and spoil you for a lifetime." The friendship between men was built very quickly. After just a fight and a meal, Ji Yunhan and Shinja were so close that they could put their arms around each other's shoulders. Ji Yunhan kept calling him a brother-in-law and coaxing Shinja to give him his most treasured katana. Ji Yuqi pretended to be jealous and complained that Ji Yunhan changed sides too quickly. However, her heart was warm and sweet. It was getting late. The siblings should leave. Ji Yunhan cooperated very well to create a private space for the two of them. He took the lead and ran back to the car. Ji Yuqi hugged Shinja and stood on her tiptoes. She quickly kissed him on the lips and ran away quickly. Shinja touched his lips. His gaze followed the little girl. She ran away like a flustered little rabbit. He couldn't help but chuckle softly. His mellow voice was indescribably pleasant and moving. Awesome novel, Shinwoo 799. Chapter 841. Ji Yuqi had been in a good mood recently. The Yu family in Hongqing had indeed invested a large sum of money to save Gao Qiao Technology. The acquisition plan between Gao Qiao Technology and Hongqing Entertainment had been restarted and the share price had started to rise. Everything was developing in the direction she had predicted. The 5 million shares she had bought had risen to 8 million. Most importantly, she now held 10% of Gao Qiao Technology's shares. This 10% was very important to Yu Lei, who was anxious to take control of Gao Qiao Technology. Also, Chen Tingfang was heartbroken because of the rise in the share price. She was full of regret and looked constipated every day, as if someone owed her millions. If Ji Yuqi saw this, she would be in a good mood. "Yuqi, where do you plan to go during the May Day holiday?" Just as Ji Yuqi's thoughts were running wild, a handsome figure approached her and said this out of the blue. Ji Yuqi was shocked by the sudden voice. She turned her head and looked at Tang Feng, who was smiling gently. She blinked in confusion. Tang Feng. The little girl in front of him was obviously shocked by him. Her charming eyes were wide open and her pink lips were slightly parted. She was as obedient and cute as a kitten. Tang Feng had the urge to ruffle her hair. His actions were faster than his thoughts. His hand had already landed on her soft hair and he rubbed it gently. The smile on his thin lips deepened. Chi-Chi, do you have any plans for the May Day holiday? Ji Yuqi then realized that the May Day holiday was here. In this year, the May Day holiday was a 7-day holiday. She pursed her lips and avoided his hand without batting an eyelid. She smiled politely. No plans yet. Her smile was distant and it made Tang Feng feel uncomfortable. He couldn't help but take a step forward and get closer to her. He said gently, May is the best time to watch birds. How about we go to Qinghai Lake to watch birds? I remember that you liked small animals the most when you were young. Once, Grandpa Su gave you a thrush and you treasured it so much. Later on, the thrush died and you were sad for a long time. Under the sunlight, his handsome face was shrouded in a halo and it looked very unreal. Ji Yuqi's smile faded and she said softly, so you still remember what happened when you were young. It was a short sentence but it made Tang Feng's heart ache. He finally knew what he had lost. He had lost a woman who was his childhood sweetheart. He had lost the girl who loved him the most. Caught off guard, he hugged her tightly and said hoarse. Chi-Chi, I'm sorry. Let's start over. I'll be good to you. It's already too late, big brother Tang Feng. Ji Yuqi quietly allowed him to hug her. She was neither happy nor angry. She was like a wooden doll that was completely under his control. It was this kind of indifference that made Tang Feng panic. He didn't want to become a stranger in her eyes. He hugged her even tighter until his arms were sore. Chi-Chi, let's get married after we graduate. Ji Yuqi was helpless. Why do men only know how to cherish something after they lose it? Tang Feng, don't you think it's too late? No one will wait for you in the same place. I won't either. Don't tie me down with the marriage contract anymore. It's useless. As if he had been hit by a sharp sword, his heart ached. Tang Feng really wanted to imprison her by his side. She belonged to him since she was 3 years old. Whether she loved him or not, she could only be by his side. Let go of her, you bastard. She won't marry you, and she won't go to Qinghai to see birds with you. With this reproach, a strong wind with anger attacked Tang Feng fiercely. Tang Feng had been in the army for 2 years and had undergone rigorous training. His sensitivity and reaction were so fast that he could almost hear the wind brought by the fist. He held Ji Yuqi in his arms and quickly dodged, barely avoiding Gu Fifen's angry punch. At this time, Gu Fifen was like an angry lion, without the laziness and elegance of the past. He attacked Tang Feng again after failing to hit him. Ji Yuqi was held by Tang Feng to dodge. She couldn't bear it anymore and shouted, well, you two, stop. Walala, 2 leaves fell from a nearby tree, and the surroundings were silent for a moment. Miraculously, the 2 men actually stopped what they were doing and turned to look at Ji Yuqi at the same time. Ji Yuqi pushed Tang Feng away and took a few steps forward, standing right in front of the 2 men. Her white cheeks were dyed with a thin layer of red from anger. She glared at the 2 men and said angrily, you two, how old are you and you're still fighting? Aren't you childish? The proud young master Tang Feng was scolded by a woman for the first time, but he didn't feel the slightest bit unhappy. Instead, he felt warm in his heart. He restrained his fierce aura and smiled. Chi-Chi, you still care about me. Ji Yuqi's face darkened. She really didn't understand how the narcissistic young master came to such a strange conclusion. Gu Fifen's elegant foxy eyes slightly raised, and he snorted. Chi-Chi is now my woman. Tang Feng, don't pester her in the future. Ji Yuqi's face darkened even more. When did she become young Master Gu's woman? How come she didn't know? Hey, you're too presumptuous. Gu Fifin, remember this clearly. Chi-Chi is my fiancé. We're a couple. Tang Feng, you've been abandoned by Chi-Chi. Don't make a fool of yourself, okay? The two men glared at each other. Their eyes met, and sparks flew everywhere. Ji Yuqi face-bombed. These two people were really hopelessly childish. Tang Feng and Gu Fifin were at each other's throats. One mocked the other, and the other laughed at the other. Unknowingly, a circle of people surrounded them to watch a good show. The chatter and laughter interrupted their two-person world. Only then did they realize that they were surrounded by people like monkeys, and the woman they were fighting over had long disappeared without a trace. The two of them immediately felt that they had lost all face. They had been toyed with by that little girl. However, both of them were experts at showing off. It was as if the nonsensical scolding just now was just an illusion. The two of them were calm and composed. They chatted as they squeezed out of the crowd, leaving the crowd with a pair of tall backs. Ji Yuqi opened the car door. Just as she was about to get into the car, an arm stopped her. The tall and straight body blocked the sunlight in front of her. She narrowed her eyes and looked up. Suddenly, a pair of dark and deep eyes barged into her. Her eyebrows curved and she smiled sweetly. Shinji, why are you here? After only one night, the injuries on his face had miraculously healed by more than half. There were only a few faint scratches left, which didn't affect his handsome and elegant appearance at all. His thin lips were pursed tightly, and his whole body exuded a cold aura, as if he was trying his best to endure something. He was silent. He took the car keys from her hand and locked her car again. Then, he took her hand and led her to a silver Bentley. Shinji, what's wrong with you? Sitting in the front passenger seat of the Bentley, Ji Yuqi turned to look at the man who was throwing a tantrum with a dark face. Shinji's hawk-like sharp eyes stared at her delicate cheeks. He snorted coldly. His voice was low and suppressed his anger. Tang Feng and Gu Fifin fought because of you. Ji Yuqi's heart thumped. She was well aware of this man's strong possessiveness. Her face was filled with a fawning smile. She placed her slender fingers on his arm and shook it gently. Are you angry? It's their business that they fought. I don't care at all. Really? Her soft voice was like glutinous rice paste, sweet and soft. It was obviously very ordinary words, but in his ears, there was a hint of coquettishness. He was very pleased, but his expression was still ugly. He said stiffly, Tang Feng hugged you. D****. If it weren't for her reputation and the fact that they couldn't disclose their relationship, he would have rushed out and beaten Tang Feng up. Ji Yuqi was embarrassed. She didn't have time to dodge when Tang Feng suddenly hugged her. She reached out and hugged the jealous man. She rubbed her head against his chest and said softly, I only treat him as an older brother. Don't be angry. Shinji didn't say anything and suddenly took off her clothes. What are you doing? She exclaimed and scrambled to save her clothes. However, Shinji was stronger than her. He quickly peeled off her little cardigan and threw it into the back seat. His gaze moved up and down her fair arms and neck. He raised the corners of his lips in satisfaction. Throw away the things he touched. Ji Yuqi glared at him angrily. How can you do this? What if I'm only wearing a dress today? Luckily, she was wearing a spaghetti strap dress with a little cardigan on the outside. Otherwise, she would have to run around naked. Shinji brushed her hair behind her shoulder, revealing her delicate collarbone. His slender fingers lingered on her smooth skin as he chuckled. If that's the case, I don't mind seeing you naked. Of course, only he could see it. Ji Yuqi's face turned red. She glared at him fiercely and slapped his hand away. She said angrily, "If you dare to do that, I'll—" She suddenly couldn't continue. She actually wanted to threaten him by saying, "Break up," but when she thought of that word, she panicked and swallowed it back down. "You'll what?" Shinja stared at her puffy face with a burning gaze. He couldn't help but poke it with his finger like a mischievous child. His eyes were shining brightly. Ji-Yuchi suddenly turned her head and bit his fingertip. She threatened him fiercely, "If you dare to do that, I'll bite you." Humph. Feeling the warmth and softness on his fingertips, Shinja's expression became strange. His eyes gradually became deep and dark. It was unknown what he was thinking, but the tip of his ears was dyed with a layer of crimson. He was actually shy. Ji-Yuchi let go of his finger and giggled. She cupped his face with both hands and looked at him carefully. She teased, "Eldest young master, so you know how to be shy too. Shinja, you're so cute when you're shy. You're not allowed to laugh at me." Shinja squeezed these words out from between his teeth. He then quickly lowered his head and blocked the little girl's laughter with his mouth. "Come and see." Songshu 566. Chapter 842. After a long while, Shinja let go of Ji-Yuchi and rested his head on her neck. His voice was low and hoarse. "You're not allowed to hug other men in the future." As he spoke, his lips brushed against her skin. It felt ticklish. She resisted the strange feeling in her heart and bit her lip. She answered softly, "Okay, I won't let them hug me." "You're not allowed to touch other people's faces either." His tone sounded like he was gritting his teeth. "I won't touch your face, I won't touch your face." She tried her best to appease him. "You're not allowed to hold my hand either." "Okay, no, absolutely not." Ahan and Lin Yushi are not allowed either. It doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman. Hey. Ji-Yuchi felt a little helpless. Isn't this range a little too broad? He looked up and glared at her. "You have a problem with that?" Ji-Yuchi quickly shook her head. No problem, no problem. I'll listen to you." Shinja patted her head in satisfaction. "Good girl." Ji-Yuchi's heart was filled with bitter tears. Indeed, women were worthless after they fell in love. Where did the Shinja who used to let her do everything, pamper her and act cute from time to time go? Give him back to me. 2 hours later, Ji-Yuchi woke up in the luxurious private jet. She turned her head to look at the man beside her. Shinja was wearing a pair of anti-radiation glasses on his nose. His cold and handsome face looked more elegant under the glasses. He bent his head slightly and browsed through some documents on his tablet computer. As if he felt her gaze, he looked up at her. His dark eyes were filled with gentleness and warmth. The corners of his lips curled up naturally. "You're awake." Ji-Yuchi responded with an and leaned her head on his shoulder naturally. He casually put the tablet computer aside and adjusted his position so that she could lean more comfortably. He then helped her pull up the blanket covering her legs and kissed her hair. "We'll be there in about an hour. Are you tired?" "I'm not tired." Ji-Yuchi was surprised. He had brought her from school to the airport. After boarding the plane, she had been sleepy. She had leaned on him and slept for more than half an hour. Only now did she remember that she had not informed her father of her whereabouts. Her father and Ahan should be worried. "What are you thinking about?" He ruffled her hair. Ji-Yuchi frowned in distress and pouted. "I don't know how to tell my dad. It's all your fault for suddenly taking me away." Actually, she should be blamed for being mesmerized by his kiss. She actually ran to the airport with Gigai and boarded a private jet to Jiangnan without considering the consequences. Her coquettish tone pleased Shinja. He chuckled softly and said, "Don't worry. Before I went to pick you up, I had already asked Ahan to lie to Uncle and say that you went on a trip with your good friend. When the plane lands, you can call home to reassure your uncle." Ji Yuqi's mouth twitched. "You actually convinced Ahan to commit a crime with you. I'm his brother-in-law. Of course he has to listen to me." Shinja lifted her delicate chin with his slender fingers and kissed her rosy lips in satisfaction. His thin lips were close to hers as he whispered, "This is our first trip. Don't think about anything else." This was the first trip for both of them, a very meaningful trip. Because Shinja had taken her to Shui City. Shinja's maternal grandfather lived in Shui City and was from a prestigious family here. Back then, Shinja's mother, Qin Yuelan, had insisted on marrying Shinja's father despite her family's opposition. From then on, Qin Yuelan had cut off all contact with her maternal family. Shinja also rarely contacted his maternal family. It was not until he was chased out of the country by Shin Jianhao that he found out that his maternal grandfather had been protecting him behind his back. Otherwise, he would have been killed long ago. In Shinja's heart, only his maternal grandfather's family was his true family. Therefore, after establishing a relationship with Yuqi, he wanted to bring her home and formally introduce her to his family. It was already past 7 when they got off the plane. The neon lights were twinkling and the night view was mesmerizing. Ji Yuqi called home and lied that she was going overseas with her friends. Ji Bowen didn't suspect anything and reminded her to be careful. Shinja didn't tell anyone about this trip. Even his secretary thought that he was going overseas for a business trip. From the moment he got off the plane, he turned off his phone and computer and started spending time with her. Outside the airport, a luxury car had been waiting for a long time. A handsome man in a suit bowed respectfully to the two of them. "Young Master Yen, Miss Ji, welcome home." Shinja patted the man's shoulder. "Long time no see, Wu." Wu immediately broke into a smile and opened the car door. With one hand guarding the door, he made a polite gesture with the other. "Young Master Yen, Miss Ji, please get in." "Thank you." Ji Yuqi smiled politely. The car started and quickly drove into the beautiful night. When Ji Yuqi held Shinja's hand and got out of the car, she was shocked. It wasn't that she hadn't seen a mansion before, but it was the first time she had seen such a unique mansion. The Qin family was indeed a prestigious family in Shuiqing. From the long history of this mansion, it could be seen that the Qin family's mansion was simply a garden. 2 lanterns hung under the high eaves. Stepping over the weather-beaten threshold, what greeted her eyes were pavilions, terraces, and water pavilions. Every blade of grass, every tree, every mountain, and every water here blended naturally with the buildings in the garden. Walking along the long corridor and walking on the small bridge over the flowing water, Ji Yuqi's heart calmed down. It was as if she had traveled through time and arrived in an ancient era. She couldn't help but turn her head to look at Shinja. Under the candlelight, his handsome face was enveloped in a gentle halo. His eyes met hers, and they were dazzling and intoxicating. He held her hand and whispered softly, "Don't be afraid. Grandfather and grandmother are very kind people." She smiled. Under the candlelight, her smile was warm and bright. "I'm not afraid because you're here. Shinja, as long as you're by my side, no matter what difficulties there are, I'm not afraid." The servant led them to the hall. In the antique hall, 2 old men were sitting in the main seats. One was Shinja's grandfather, the patriarch of the Qin family, Qin Tianyu. Although his hair was gray, he was hale and hearty, and his eyes were bright. Since Ji Yuqi entered the door, his shrewd and wise eyes stayed on her for a moment, as if he was examining something. The other was Shinja's grandmother, the wife of the patriarch, Lin Shuxiu. Perhaps because she had taken good care of herself, she had black hair and the wrinkles on her cheeks were not very deep. Her gentle eyes flashed with a kind light, and she looked at Shinjia and Ji Yuchi with a smile. In front of the two old men, there were several middle-aged men and several middle-aged noblewomen sitting on the left and right. Ji Yuchi guessed that they were Shinji's uncles and aunts. Shinji's handsome face revealed a gentle smile. He first greeted the two old men, then turned to the elders sitting on the two sides and greeted them one by one, confirming Ji Yuchi's guess. They were indeed his uncles and aunts. After greeting them, Shinji held Ji Yuchi's hand tightly and said warmly, "Grandfather, grandmother, uncles and aunts, this is my fiancé, Ji Yuchi." Ji Yuchi stood beside him openly. She was not timid because of the big show of extravagance, nor was she shy because Shinji was holding her hand in public. Her behavior was elegant, showing her good upbringing. She followed Shinji's greeting and politely greeted the elders. Her generous and decent behavior fell into the eyes of old Master Qin, and he couldn't help but nod inwardly. This little girl looked young, but she was very elegant. At first glance, he could tell that she was the daughter of a rich family. She was perfect for their Shinjia. The other elders also nodded inwardly, and their gazes towards Ji Yuchi softened. Old Madame Qin waved her hand kindly and said with a smile, "Yuchi, come to grandmother." "Yes," Ji Yuchi responded obediently with a sweet smile on her face. She quickly walked towards old Madame. A servant had already moved a chair and placed it beside old Madame. She didn't refuse and sat down naturally to chat with old Madame. The benevolent-looking old Madame reminded Ji Yuchi of her grandmother. She couldn't help but feel a little closer to old Madame. When they chatted, she unconsciously revealed her true feelings. From time to time, she would make old Madame happy without appearing to flatter her, which made old Madame like her even more. On the other side, Shinji sat beside eldest uncle and chatted with old Master Qin and the other uncles. In front of outsiders, Shinji was cold, arrogant, and unapproachable. But in front of his relatives, he was like a child with high IQ. Although he often thought of some wonderful plans, he always revealed some childish emotions. For example, he would show an innocent expression when the old master patted his forehead lovingly. He would roll his eyes when his uncles mocked him for having facial paralysis. He would even show a pitiful expression that said, "Grandmother, you don't love me anymore," when the old madam put food in Ji Yuchi's bowl, which made everyone laugh. This was the real Shinji. He longed for family affection. He loved his family deeply and was willing to use some poor acting skills to make them happy. Seeing Shinji like this, Ji Yuchi felt both happy and inexplicably distressed. He had been alone for too long and wanted to get the warmth of a family. But the Shin family would not give him the slightest bit of warmth. She didn't know if old madam did it on purpose or not, but she didn't arrange a guest room for Ji Yuchi. She wanted her to stay in Shinji's courtyard. Ji Yuchi summoned up her courage to fight for a guest room. Old madam smiled and said, "Yuchi, I'll have to trouble you tonight. Tomorrow, grandmother will arrange a room for you." Ji Yuchi had no choice but to follow Shinji to his place. The Qin family's garden was very large. Every young master and miss had their own independent courtyard. And Shinji, although he only spent a few years of his childhood here, he still had his own independent small courtyard named Exayan Garden. Exayan Garden had 3 rooms, 1 bedroom, 1 living room, and 1 study. Ji Yuchi certainly couldn't sleep in the study. She hesitated whether to sleep on the sofa in the living room. Shinji had already taken her hand and led her into the bedroom. The antique decoration and a carved antique bed. Ji Yuchi was dazed for a moment. She thought that she had walked into the shooting site of a period drama. Beauty novel, Hongcha 866. Chapter 843. Shinja came out of the bathroom with a bath towel wrapped around his body and a towel in his hand to wipe his wet hair. Ji-Yuchi sat on the edge of the couch and played with her mobile phone seriously. She pretended not to see anything, but the tip of her ears quietly turned red. Especially when she heard his approaching footsteps, her heart beat faster. A big hand snatched the phone from her hand, and a low and pleasant voice floated from above her head. "It's getting late. Go to bed early." Ji-Yuchi glanced at the only bed in the room and didn't know what to do awkwardly. She suddenly bounced up from the couch. "I'll sleep on the couch, you sleep on the bed. I'll get a quilt." She hurriedly ran to the cabinet. There must be a spare quilt in there. Shinja glanced at her. "I'd better sleep on the couch. It's very cold at night in Shuei City." That couch was specially used for a summer lunch break. Although it was long enough, it wasn't wide enough. Shinja would definitely be aggrieved if he lay on it. Of course, Ji-Yuchi wouldn't let him sleep. After laying out the quilt, she lay down first, blinked her eyes, and said with a smile, "I'm already asleep. You can't snatch it from me." Shinja raised his eyebrows in amusement. What a rascal. Ji-Yuchi had thought that she would fall asleep quickly after a tiring day, but for some reason, she didn't feel sleepy at all. Instead, she became more and more awake as she stared at the dark ceiling. She was also worried that she would wake Shinja up if she tossed and turned on the bed, so she just lay straight and seriously counted the little sheep. She lay quietly. After an unknown period of time, her consciousness gradually became confused. She didn't know that a black shadow was approaching her. After her breathing became steady, the black shadow bent down and picked her up with the quilt. The little girl in his arms was curled up into a ball under the blankets, letting out light breathing sounds. Shinja's lips curved as he carefully placed her on the bed. He then laid down on the bed and gently pulled her into his arms. His movements were very careful, afraid that he would wake her up. The little girl unconsciously curled up in his arms. Her cheek gently rubbed against his chest like a confused kitten. She was so cute. Shinja's heart softened. He lowered his head and gently planted a kiss on her forehead. That night, Ji-Yuchi slept very soundly. When she woke up, the sun was already shining on the window. She opened her sleepy eyes, and the first thing she saw was a handsome face. Her pupils constricted, and she was obviously shocked. She wanted to escape from his embrace, but a large hand clasped her waist, making it impossible for her to escape. Even the slightest movement woke Shinja up in an instant. He suddenly opened his eyes. His dark eyes carried a bit of fierceness, but in an instant, they turned into the familiar gentleness she was familiar with. It was as if the moment just now was just an illusion. Ji-Yuchi felt a little stifled in her heart. What kind of environment did he live in for him to develop the habit of being vigilant even when he was asleep? The awkwardness in her heart dissipated. She smiled and greeted him, "Good morning." "Good morning." His voice had a unique hoarseness in the morning. His slightly rough fingers caressed her cheeks, and his face was serious. "You climbed up on your own last night." Ji-Yuchi felt as if she had been struck by lightning. When did I have the problem of sleepwalking? She had always thought that he was the one who carried her up. Was it really her wishful thinking? Shinja ruffled her hair and said gently, "It's okay. I don't mind at all." But she did mind. His expression became serious again. "I'm very worried about your problem of sleepwalking, so we'll sleep together in the future." Sleep. In. One. Up. That was his real goal. The little girl in front of him stared at him with her eyes wide open. Her expression was full of suspicion and her gaze was full of distrust. She was so cute that she looked like an angry puppy. Shinja couldn't help but ruffle her hair again. His expression became more serious, as if they were discussing a profound academic problem. This is for your own good. If you sleepwalk to a dangerous place, I can bring you back in time. The suspicion in Ji Yuqi's eyes deepened. Suddenly, she blinked and grabbed his arm timidly. Her voice was soft and soft. Shinji, you said before that you won't lie to me. Shinji's fake serious expression cracked. The corners of his mouth twitched and his voice was dry. Okay, I admit it. I carried you up. Ji Yuqi hugged his neck and buried her head in his chest to hide the smile on her face. Her voice was indescribably pitiful and weak. You lied to me. Shinji hugged her back stiffly and coughed awkwardly. I've asked Aze. This isn't considered lying. It's just a little fun between lovers. Ji Yuqi secretly gritted her teeth. Aze, just you wait. In a certain guest room, Aze sneezed out of nowhere. He rubbed his nose expressionlessly. Strange, who was scolding him? Shinji was depressed. He could have abducted Chi-Chi into his arms, but he didn't expect Chi-Chi to be so smart. It was a pity that his heroic image was ruined. The next day, Ji Yuqi followed Shinji to visit relatives and friends. Only then did she realize that the Qin family was a very big family. There were third granduncle, third grandaunt, seventh granduncle, eldest uncle, and a bunch of cousins. There were so many relatives that Ji Yuqi was dazzled. Fortunately, her memory was good enough. After meeting Shinji once, she could call out their names correctly the second time she met them. Otherwise, she would have made a fool of herself. However, she didn't know that everyone in the Qin family saw her being so generous and at ease. Otherwise, they wouldn't have held such a grand welcome banquet for a junior. At the banquet, Shinji was very considerate to Ji Yuqi. His cousins deliberately teased him and kept toasting him, but Shinji stopped them all. The youngest one, Qin Yenner, was only 7 years old. She was innocent and lovely and was the little princess of the Qin family. Seeing that handsome cousin Yen loved sister Yuqi so much, she said in a clear voice, I will find a husband who loves me as much as cousin Yen does. Shinji's beautiful face looked a bit unnatural. Ji Yuqi chuckled, and so did the others. Qin Yenner's second cousin, Qin Yao, was 10 years old and looked very cute. He glanced at Qin Yenner with disdain and snorted. You haven't even grown your teeth yet, and you're already thinking about your husband. Shame on you. Qin Yenner made a face and said in a childish voice, he's still better than cousin Yen. I saw him holding a girl's hand a few days ago. The two children bickered as if no one else was around, and everyone laughed even harder. Shinji couldn't help but smile and held Ji Yuqi's hand under the table. Ji Yuqi secretly held his hand back. In the laughter, their hearts were getting closer and closer. In the end, Shinji drank too much. He was forced to drink by his unscrupulous cousins. Ji Yuqi felt sorry for him, but there was nothing she could do. She knew that this was a unique way for men to communicate their feelings. With Aze's help, Ji Yuqi helped Shinji back to Aksayan Garden. She originally planned to sleep in the guest room tonight, but a certain black-bellied man didn't stop when he was drunk. He kept holding her hand and wouldn't let go, so she had to stay. Ji Yuqi helped him lie down, and he leaned against the pillow. The collar of his shirt was pulled open, revealing a large area of his sturdy chest. His pitch-black eyes flashed with a strange light. Chi-Chi. His voice was mellow and nasal, with a hint of coquettishness. Ji Yuqi wiped his face with a wet towel and asked softly, where do you feel uncomfortable? Do you have a headache? He leaned against the pillow and smiled innocently. Chi-Chi, what's wrong? She was very patient, gently wiping his cheeks, his chin, and then down his neck. Chi-Chi. He was still smiling innocently. His eyes were shining and he looked very beautiful. Ji-Yuchi paused and smiled bitterly. It turned out that someone was drunk. While she was wiping his body, the drunk man kept whispering her name in her ear. Those two words rolled out from the tip of his tongue with endless affection. It was so gentle that it made her heart tremble. After wiping his body, she got up and planned to put the towel back in the bathroom. Shunja grabbed her hand and pulled her into his arms. He hugged her waist and buried his furry head in her neck. His hot breath sprayed on her skin and his hoarse voice was muffled. "You're not allowed to leave." "Okay, I won't leave." Ji-Yuchi was defeated by him. She threw the towel into the basin and rubbed his hair. She said softly, "Sleep. You'll feel better when you wake up." Shunja grunted softly and hugged her tightly. He held her waist with one hand and stroked her hair gently with the other. He murmured dreamily, "Good baby, sleep." Ji-Yuchi didn't know whether to laugh or cry when she was coaxed like a child by a certain someone. She struggled but didn't manage to break free. Instead, it made a certain someone even more gentle. She could only stop and lay Gigai on his chest. Smelling the faint scent of alcohol on his body and listening to his strong heartbeat, Ji-Yuchi fell asleep unknowingly. In the middle of the night, Shunja suddenly opened his eyes when he heard the steady breathing of the person in his arms. The confusion in his eyes had disappeared. His burning gaze looked at the peaceful sleeping face of the person in his arms, and his eyes were full of love. When she woke up the next day, Ji-Yuchi was still lying on Shunja's chest in the same position as last night. She didn't know when he woke up, but his burning gaze fell on her body, almost roasting her. She shifted her body awkwardly. He suddenly hugged her and said in a hoarse voice, "Don't move." She acutely felt that something was pressing against her waist. She wasn't a young girl who was inexperienced, so of course she knew what it was. She was shy and annoyed, so she glared at him unhappily. His jade-like cheeks were dyed with an unnatural red, but his tone was serious. "You can't blame me. It's all its fault." Ji-Yuchi was angry and amused. She pushed his hand away, got up from his body as quickly as possible, and jumped off the ground. Shunja glanced in distress at a certain place that didn't live up to his expectations, then glanced in distress at his little girl who had run away. He could only sigh deeply. Awesome novel, Songshu 566. Chapter 844. The night market in Shuwei town was very lively. There were many shops on both sides of the street, and there was a dazzling array of goods. In the not very wide river, a few black awning boats swayed. Lanterns reflected on the river, and the waves sparkled. Jiangnan folk songs floated in the night, and laughter sounded from time to time. A young man and a young woman walked from the end of the bluestone alley. The woman was charming, holding the man's arm, and from time to time, she let out a crisp and pleasant laughter. The man was handsome, tall, and straight. His eyebrows were gentle, and he stared at the woman attentively. He listened to her carefully and occasionally added a few words. Both of them were very good-looking. As they walked on the street, many people stole glances and admired them. Shunja felt the gazes of the people around him and couldn't help but frown. He was the only one who could appreciate his Chi-Chi. He held Ji-Yuchi's hand tightly. "Chi-Chi, it's too noisy here. Let's take another road." "Okay." Ji-Yuchi knew that he didn't like noise, so she had no objection. The two of them held hands and walked alone on the ancient bluestone road. There was no one else looking at them, and it was quiet and beautiful. Ji-Yuchi felt as if all the pores on her body had opened up. She breathed in fresh air, and what greeted her eyes was the enchanting night. Thinking that she was leaving tomorrow, she felt a little reluctant. Ji-Yuchi sat on the railing of the stone bridge. Her two slender legs swayed in front and back. Her fair and delicate ankles looked even fairer in the dim light. Shinja was worried that she would fall into the water, so he stood beside her. He put one hand on her waist and the other on the railing. His posture was casual and elegant, but he didn't lose the demeanor of a young master. Shinja, actually, I have a question to ask you. Ji-Yuchi suddenly turned to look at him. Her delicate face was quite solemn. Shinja's hand on her waist tightened and she leaned into his arms. What's the question? Ji-Yuchi held his face with both hands and stared into his dark and bright eyes. She said slowly, Liang Yu is your man, right? Shinja laughed softly. His deep and slow voice was like the bass played by a cello. It was very pleasant to hear. His cold lips brushed against her cheek. Chi-Chi, you're so smart. Ji-Yuchi pouted and muttered angrily, you promised me that you wouldn't interfere, but you still sent Liang Yu to monitor my actions. Shinja ruffled her hair and coaxed softly, I'm not spying on you. I'm just asking Liang Yu to help you. Ji-Yuchi bit her lip and didn't speak. In fact, she was just a little angry when she first knew about it. Later, she guessed Shinja's painstaking efforts and was not angry anymore. Instead, she was very touched that he silently supported her behind her back. Chi-Chi, tell me, how did you know? He adjusted his position and hugged her from behind, letting her entire body lean into his embrace. Their faces were extremely close, so close that they could feel each other's breathing. Well, if Liang Yu was just a private detective, he didn't have to help me put on an act and set a trap for Chen Tingfang. Actually, after the incident with Ahan, I felt that he was too resourceful, so I became suspicious of his identity. After that, I tested his bottom line until he was willing to help me deceive Chen Tingfang. Then, I was sure that he was sent by you. She paused and said seriously, because, only you would help me at all costs. Hearing her last sentence, Shinja was very surprised. It turned out that in Chi-Chi's heart, he was so trustworthy. He suddenly carried her down from the railing and kissed her lips eagerly and excitedly. The two of them stood on the stone bridge, gentle and affectionate. The water gurgled under their feet, and the time was quiet and beautiful. But this kind of beauty was quickly broken by a teasing male voice. Fairy sister, are we going to your place tonight, or are we going to mine? A series of crisp footsteps followed. Under the moonlight, a beautiful woman wearing a black tight dress and high heels swayed her graceful waist. Beside her, a young and handsome man was following her step by step. The man's burning gaze followed the beautiful woman. The beautiful woman was holding a lady cigar between her fingers. Her chin was slightly raised, and her rosy red lips slightly opened, blowing out a smoke ring. Her voice was soft and seductive. Little brother, I'm not interested tonight. You should go find someone else. The man unwillingly grabbed her arm. Sister, are you going to find our way? I saw you dancing together last night. The beautiful woman impatiently raised her eyebrows and pushed the man's fingers away. She lazily said, Mister, do you need me to remind you that we only had a one-night relationship? After dawn, we have nothing to do with each other. Now, I don't know you. Please move aside. The beautiful woman seemed to be very flirtatious, but in fact, she was the most cold-hearted. She no longer paid attention to the young man who had been following her around and slowly walked across the stone bridge in her high heels. When she passed by Shinja, she seemed to inadvertently glance at his handsome figure, and her beautiful eyes flashed with a touch of interest. Only when the footsteps were far away did Ji-Yuchi's tense body relax. She raised her head from Shinja's arms with a complicated expression. Guess who I saw? Shinja raised his eyebrows and said with a normal expression, your little aunt, Ji Wanhua. He had investigated the Ji family before. Although he had only glanced at Ji Wanhua's photo, he had an excellent memory and would never forget her appearance. Ji-Yuchi nodded with mixed feelings. Ji Wanhua was dressed so coquettishly and seductively. Compared to her noble and elegant self, they were like two different people. Even a fool could guess what she had done. She didn't expect that she had gone on a trip to indulge herself. This woman is two-faced. She might be harboring evil intentions. You should be careful of her. Shenzhe gently reminded her. Yes, I know. It's getting late. Let's go back, lest the elders worry. Ji Yuqi held his hand and smiled. The two of them held hands and leisurely walked home. When they passed by the new street, they saw a wedding dress shop. Through the window, she saw the beautiful wedding dress on the model. Ji Yuqi couldn't help but sigh. It's so beautiful. Shenzhe's lips curved and his eyes were full of smiles. If you like it, you can put on the wedding dress tomorrow. Hey, are you trying to trick me into marrying you? Ji Yuqi smiled and punched him on the arm. Shenzhe held her fist and the smile on his lips deepened. He joked, "You're so smart. Even if I wanted to trick you into marrying me, I wouldn't be able to do it. You should be happy to have such a smart and beautiful girlfriend like me." Ji Yuqi winked playfully. Shenzhe pretended to pinch her nose. She laughed and ran away. Inadvertently, she saw the beautiful wedding dress in the window again. Some scenes from her previous life rushed into her mind and made her dizzy. She stood stiffly on the spot and the smile on her face gradually faded. What's wrong? Shenzhe's heart tightened and he pulled the young woman into his arms. He spoke quickly, "Are you feeling unwell?" Ji Yuqi bit her lip and slowly smiled. "It's nothing. I just thought of a story." Shenzhe's eyes were deep as he stared at her face. There was some doubt in his expression. "Are you really okay?" "I'm really okay." Ji Yuqi smiled. "Shenzhe, let me tell you the story." Without waiting for him to answer, she had already started the story. Her clear voice sounded inexplicably cold in the silent night. Once upon a time, there was a rich Mississippi. She fell in love with a boy from a poor family. In order to marry the boy, the girl cut off all ties with her family. The girl always had a wish to wear a beautiful wedding dress for the person she loved. However, their financial conditions did not allow for it. So, she always hid it from the boy and secretly went to the bridal shop to see the wedding dress she liked. Finally, one day, the boy found out. The boy smashed the glass window and stole the wedding dress. He lied to the girl and said that he had borrowed the wedding dress. After the wedding, he planned to return the wedding dress to the bridal shop. However, he was caught by the police and spent half a year in jail. The girl waited for the boy and in the end, they lived a happy life. After telling the story, Ji Yuqi looked at Shenzhe and said with a smile, "Isn't the story very touching?" There was a smile on her face, but her heart was bitter. In fact, this story was told to her by Jiang Tianhao in her previous life. At the time, they were also standing outside the bridal shop. Jiang Tianhao said, "Yuqi, I won't be as silly as the boy in the story. I want the girl I love to live a rich life. I will use the money I earn to buy her a beautiful wedding dress. Yuqi, will you marry me?" At the time, he was kneeling on one knee in front of her with an exquisite diamond ring in his hand. Ji Yuqi covered her mouth in disbelief. She was stunned on the spot. He smiled and put the ring on her finger. As Ji Yuqi recalled the past, her heart was filled with mixed feelings. Just as she was in a daze, she suddenly heard a loud bang. She saw a brick flying at the bridal shop's display window at the speed of a rocket. Ji Yuqi blinked. Before she could react, Shenzhe had already grabbed her wrist and said unhurriedly, "Chi-Chi, wait for me. I'll go get the wedding dress." She turned her head stiffly and glanced at the display window that had a big hole in it. If she wasn't mistaken, there were two female shop assistants looking at them in horror as though they had seen terrorists. Then she turned her head to look at Shinja. She held her forehead as though she was having a headache. Eldest young master Shin, may I ask what you mean by picking up a brick and smashing it at someone's display window? Shinja frowned. Don't you like that wedding dress? I'll help you snatch it. Eldest young master, I didn't tell you that story because I wanted you to learn from that boy and steal or snatch the wedding dress. It was purely a story, dear. Shinja's frown deepened. It was so deep that it could almost squash a fly. Don't you think it's very romantic? He remembered that in romance novels, women liked romance and liked men to do surprising things for them. Could it be that smashing the display window wasn't enough? Awesome novel. Shinwoo 799. Chapter 845. If Ji Yuchi knew what he was thinking, Ji Yuchi would definitely cover her face and cry bitterly. Young Master Shin, your EQ is so high that it's hard to look straight at you. She held his hand tightly with a pained expression. Don't say anything else. Let's hurry up and run. The shop assistant will call the police. With that said, she grabbed Shinja's hand and ran for her life under the shop assistant's horrified gaze. After running for 2 streets and seeing that no one was chasing after them, Ji Yuchi couldn't help but laugh out loud. Shinja, you're too cute. Why did you really smash it? Shinja turned his head away and didn't look at her. He was very sad. Since he was young, no one had taught him how to get along with others or how to please girls. He had always been alone from home to abroad. If it weren't for Uncle Hong, he might have become autistic by now. The little girl's bell-like laughter was still echoing in his ears. Shinja's handsome face had an unnatural expression. Ji Yuchi saw that he was silent for a long time and knew that things were bad. The arrogant man was angry. She quickly threw herself into his arms and wrapped her arms around his waist. She raised her chin and smiled with narrowed eyes. Her voice was soft and sweet. Shinja, are you angry? Although it's not good to smash the shop window, I'm quite happy. No one has ever done such a bold thing for me. I'm very happy. Her beautiful almond-shaped eyes were full of a charming smile. Her eyes were watery, just like a coquettish puppy. The depression in Shinja's heart dissipated in an instant. His tense lips relaxed and he snorted proudly. You were mocking me just now. No, I just thought that it was very fun. Oh, so the high and mighty young Master Shin would do such a thing for me. I'm really happy. Ji Yuchi shamelessly flattered Shinja and tried her best to appease a certain someone. A smile flashed across Shinja's eyes, but his voice was still cold. Really? Ji Yuchi quickly nodded. Really? Shinja raised his chin proudly. I need to prove it. Alright, I'll prove it. Ji Yuchi tiptoed and kissed him on the lips. Just as she was about to leave, she was pulled into his arms and kissed fiercely. After a long while, Shinja leaned against her neck and said in a low and hoarse voice, I'll ask Zay will send the compensation to the bridal shop. Ji Yuchi's legs. She was like a little kitten. She couldn't hide the smile on her face. Such an adorable man was hers. And no one could take him away from her. He was her. Such an adorable man was hers, no one could take such an adorable man. The next day, everyone in the Chin family was very reluctant to see her leave. Old Madam gave Ji Yuchi a pair of emerald bracelets, saying that it was a meeting gift for her granddaughter-in-law. Yuchi was so embarrassed that her cheeks were red. Her uncles and aunts also gave her many gifts. Ji Yuchi accepted all of them graciously. She wasn't petty at all. When the two of them arrived in Ing City, Shinja had to rush back to the company for important business matters. He asked Ah Zhe to send Yuchi home. Yuchi leaned against the back seat and turned on her phone. She saw several messages. Most of them were from Jiang Tianhao. He asked her where she had gone and why she had turned off her phone. He even asked her out to have fun. Yuchi curled her lips mockingly. She knew that Jiang Tianhao must be looking for her because of work matters. She replied with a message. Senior, I went out of town with a few friends a few days ago. It wasn't convenient for me to turn on my phone. Soon, Jiang Tianhao called. His voice was filled with concern. Yuchi, you didn't turn on your phone for the past few days. I thought something had happened to you. I was so worried. Yuchi said gently, it's okay. I'm fine. Senior, have you thought about which company you want to go to? Jiang Tianhao wasn't in a hurry to answer. Yuchi, are you free today? I have 2 tickets for a concert. How about we go to the concert? Yuchi hesitated for a moment before saying, I'm sorry, Senior. I just came back from out of town today. I'm too tired and don't feel like going out. You should ask Zissou to go with you. If you've chosen a company, I'll try to talk to my dad about it today. Hearing this, Jiang Tianhao felt a little touched. He thought that Yuchi definitely didn't want to be misunderstood by Zissou. That was why she didn't want to go out with him. Yuchi was really a good girl. She always thought of him. Thinking of this, his voice became even gentler. Yuchi, I understand your feelings. I definitely won't let you down. He said a lot of words to show his loyalty. He was completely unaware that Yuchi was almost disgusted by him on the other side. It wasn't until Yuchi lost her patience and wanted to interrupt him that he said that he had already chosen a company. Dongfang Real Estate. This was the company that Jiang Tianhao had chosen. Jiang Tianhao majored in architectural design and minored in business administration. It was no wonder that he chose Dongfang Real Estate. Firstly, it was very compatible with his major. Secondly, Dongfang Real Estate was a famous real estate company in Ing City and even in the country. Yuchi's lips curled into a strange smile. Very few people knew that the boss of Dongfang Real Estate, Wang Tinghai, was a retired soldier. This soldier was the adjutant under her grandfather, Su Jinghang. When he retired from the military and went into business, her grandfather was very reluctant to let him go. However, in the end, he still gave him a helping hand and established a firm foothold in Ing City. These things happened before Yuchi was born. Of course, she didn't know about it. However, as her grandfather's bodyguard, Xiao Yao was very clear about it. Furthermore, Xiao Yao and Wang Tinghai had a good relationship. Even now, the two of them still kept in contact. Yuchi's eyes curved into crescents. She decided that she would go to Grandpa Zhao's place this afternoon and ask for his help. Not only would she let Jiang Tianhao enter Dongfang Real Estate, she would also let him receive special treatment. When the car arrived at Yuchi's villa, the scene of Yuchi alighting from the car was coincidentally witnessed by Chen Tingfang, who was on the 2nd floor. She saw that the car that sent Yuchi home was a silver Bentley. This kind of luxury car was definitely not something that ordinary people could afford. Could this little B*TCH have hooked up with some rich man's son? Chen Tingfang gritted her teeth in hatred. Her own daughter had to marry a poor man, but this B*TCH had hooked up with a rich man. How could she not be angry? What was worse was that when she thought about how she had lost more than half of her savings, she became even angrier. Today, Mrs. Li invited her to play mahjong, but she wasn't in the mood to go. If she was unlucky and lost money, it would be even worse. It was better to walk around the mall with Mrs. Chen and relax. Mom. Zissou walked to Chen Tingfang with her phone in her hand. Her delicate brows were slightly furrowed. Mom, have you contacted Dad recently? I called his phone, but it's been turned off. I wanted to ask him out and meet Tianhao. Chen Tingfang raised her eyebrows indifferently. What else could he be doing? He must be fooling around with someone again. Yi Sisu pouted. That's not right, Mom. I haven't been able to contact Dad for more than a month. He never disappears for so long. More than a month. Something flashed through Chen Tingfang's mind, and her eyes widened. Right, more than a month ago, Yi Xiaoxian sent her a letter and asked her to meet him at a hotel. He also said that their affair had been discovered by Su Yanqing. She happened to be going to the airport to pick up Ji Wanhua that day, so she had no choice but to cancel the appointment. After that, she was so focused on her stocks that she wasn't in the mood to contact Yi Xiaoxian. Could it be that something had happened to him? At the thought of this possibility, Chen Tingfang's temples suddenly throbbed. Although she hated Yi Xiaoxian for setting her up, they were still husband and wife and had some affection for each other. She suppressed the uneasiness in her heart and hurriedly contacted Yi Xiaoxian. Whether it was calling home or his cell phone, no one answered. She called his friends, but they all said that they hadn't seen him in a long time and didn't know where he had gone. No news could possibly be the worst news. Chen Tingfang's heart trembled, and her legs turned to jelly. She fell on the chair and suspected that Yi Xiaoxian was no longer alive. Mom, don't worry. Chapter 846. Chen Tingfang arranged for Xia Bing to be the Ji family's chauffeur. That way, he would be able to protect her when she went out, which made her feel much more at ease. She thought that her plan was flawless, but in reality, Ji Yuqi had been watching her every move. Ji Yuqi quickly browsed through Xia Bing's information and chuckled. She was looking forward to seeing who would win between a special forces soldier and an underground organization's Mississippi. Yuqi, Madam just went out. I heard that she was playing golf with Mrs. Lin. Xiao Rou came in and reported Chen Tingfang's whereabouts in detail. Ever since Shenjia sent Qing Sang and Liang Yu to help her, Ji Yuqi rarely asked Xiao Rou to help her. After all, Xiao Rou was just an ordinary person. If she was careless, she could get into trouble. She didn't want Xiao Rou to get hurt, but Xiao Rou still insisted on monitoring Chen Tingfang and her daughter, reporting their whereabouts to her from time to time. Ji Yuqi smiled. Thank you, Xiao Rou. I'll make sure she has an unforgettable afternoon. In her previous life, she wouldn't let go of anyone who owed Han a life. Yi Xiaoxian had already repaid his debt. Now, it was Chen Tingfang's turn. After Xiao Rou left, Qing Sang quietly appeared behind Ji Yuqi and said in a cold voice, Su Yanqing has her eyes on Chen Tingfang. She sent someone to follow Chen Tingfang today. I think she wants to make a move. Unfortunately, Xia Bing is there. Those guys are no match for Xia Bing. Ji Yuqi raised her eyebrows and smiled. Xia Bing is so powerful. Do you know him? Qing Sang nodded with an indifferent look on her face. I've fought with him before. He's good at martial arts. He's a famous sharpshooter. Chen Tingfang must be quite capable to hire him as her bodyguard. Ji Yuqi's smile deepened. Of course. After all, Chen Tingfang has a powerful cousin. Lu Jianfang is a small boss in Hanqing and has some friendship with Xia Bing. Xia Bing only agreed to be Chen Tingfang's bodyguard because of Lu Jianfang. A trace of doubt flashed through Qing Sang's dark eyes. Isn't Wang Tong the leader of Hanqing? Ji Yuqi waved her hand. Hurry up and step down. Lu Jianfang will soon become the leader. She narrowed her eyes. If she remembered correctly, half a year later, Wang Tong was pulled down and replaced by Lu Jianfang. By the time she married Jiang Tianhao, Lu Jianfang had already been promoted and became a hot new star. If Lu Jianfang didn't care about Qin Tingfang's affairs, she would let it go. But if he insisted on intervening in the grievances between her and Qin Tingfang, she would never let him have an easy time. A trace of viciousness flashed across Ji Yuqi's eyes. Qing Sang took in her expression without batting an eyelid. She didn't hate her because of this. Instead, she admired her. She was different from other rich girls. She had sharp observation skills and a high IQ. The Gaucho technology stock incident had proven her intelligence. Therefore, Qing Sang believed her words. Hanqing would change soon. At that moment, Qin Tingfang was sitting in the back seat of the car. Bored, she picked up a magazine in the car and browsed through it. Suddenly, Xia Bing, who was driving the car, said in a deep voice, "Madam, sit tight." "Ha! What's wrong?" Qin Tingfang looked up in surprise. Before he could answer, the car suddenly accelerated and turned right into a street with few cars. She was caught off guard and almost hit the car window. Just as she was about to get angry, Xia Bing's deep voice sounded again. "Someone is following us. I have to get rid of them. Fasten your seatbelt." It was the first time Qin Tingfang encountered such a situation. Her heart was pounding. She grabbed the seat with both hands and looked back. Sure enough, a black car was chasing their car from afar. She was so nervous that her heart was about to jump out of her chest. "Hurry up. Drive faster." Without needing her to say anything, Xia Bing had already sped up. With a sharp turn, the car drove into another alley. After a series of twists and turns, they finally got rid of the car behind them. Qin Tingfang's face was pale. She patted her chest. The crazy speed just now made her dizzy and she almost vomited. Xia Bing glanced at her from the rearview mirror and said indifferently, "Who are they?" "Ha! I don't understand what you mean." Qin Tingfang still wanted to play dumb. Xia Bing knitted his brows and his voice sounded unhappy. "Since you want me to protect you, you have to tell me who wants to hurt you. The more I know about the enemy, the easier it will be for me to do my job. You will also be safer." Qin Tingfang hesitated for a moment and said, "It could be someone from the Black Flame sect." Xia Bing did not have any intention of underestimating the enemy. He slowly said, "The current leader of the Black Flame sect, Su Yanqing, is a ruthless person. If you are targeted by her, it will be troublesome." Although Qin Tingfang did not say anything, her eyes flickered. Of course, it did not escape Xia Bing's sharp eyes. He instantly understood that the person this woman provoked was Su Yanqing. This was going to be a headache. Xia Bing's face was solemn. Qin Tingfang was affected by his mood and also became depressed. The car soon arrived at the golf course. She was still a bit tired. Xia Bing comforted her. "Don't be afraid. Even if they want to harm you, they won't choose a place like the golf course. It's not convenient for me to go in, so I'll wait for you outside." "All right then." Qin Tingfang took 2 steps and turned around. "Be careful." Although the other party was very powerful and did not need her concern, Qin Tingfang still pretended to be gentle and considerate in order to build a good relationship with him and let him protect her more. Xia Bing was dazed for a moment, then nodded. "Mrs. Ji, you're finally here. We've been waiting for you for a long time." Qin Tingfang walked into the golf course and a few ladies greeted her warmly. Qin Tingfang smiled and said, "Sorry to keep everyone waiting. Let's start." These rich ladies were used to living like princes. Plus, they were getting old, so they were a bit tired after playing for more than half an hour. They took a short break and chatted while walking. "That young man is so handsome." Among them, there was a lady who liked to go to nightclubs and keep a gigolo. Her eyes lit up when she saw a handsome young man. She pointed at the young man playing not far away and gestured for her companions to look. Someone laughed and teased the lady, but they couldn't help but look in the direction of her finger. A young Chinese man was playing basketball with a blonde foreigner. The handsome man the lady pointed out was the Chinese man. He was wearing black trousers and a white shirt. The simple combination made him look elegant and confident. His facial features were handsome, and he had a pair of clear and bright eyes. His smile was bright and cheerful, which made people feel happy at first glance. What a handsome man! Chen Tingfang sized him up and felt that he looked familiar. Ji Tai, why are you looking so carefully? Are you interested in that young man? Lin Tai, who loved to joke, came up and teased. Chen Tingfang pushed her in annoyance. What nonsense are you talking about? You should say that to Yazi. Li Yazi was the rich lady who liked to go to nightclubs. Her husband was Taiwanese and spent most of his time in Taiwan. The couple rarely had time to reunite, which led to the situation where the husband and wife played separately. Li Yazi had a cheerful personality and liked to joke. She snorted and said, "Yes, yes, I like young handsome men. What can you guys do? Let me tell you, if you don't play while you're young, you won't be able to play when you're old. Men are nothing. As long as I have money, they'll rush over. It's okay to play, but don't use your true feelings. I can't win against you with that mouth of yours." Lin Tai shook her head, obviously disagreeing with her view. The group of women chatted animatedly and attracted the attention of the people around them, including the handsome man they admired. The young man looked at them curiously and his eyes suddenly lit up. He turned around and said a few words to the foreigners, then handed the club to the caddy and turned to walk towards them. "Sister Chin, I didn't expect us to meet again. Playing golf with your friends?" The handsome young man stopped in front of Chen Tingfang with a warm smile on his handsome face. He spoke elegantly and it was obvious that he had a good upbringing. Chen Tingfang was dazzled by the bright smile on his face. Her eyes suddenly lit up and she said in surprise, "You're Xiao Han. I didn't expect Sister Chen to still remember me." "It's my honor." Xiao Han's smile deepened. Coupled with his handsome face, he was simply too handsome. He glanced at the other ladies and nodded politely. "Hello, sisters. I'm Sister Chen's friend. My name is Xiao Han. It's nice to meet all of you." The word sister greatly pleased the group of rich ladies. They all laughed and praised Xiao Han for being young and promising. They praised him for being handsome and handsome. In any case, they praised him for everything. Chen Tingfang's vanity was at work. She felt that Xiao Han had made her proud, so she became more and more polite to him. Xiao Han was indeed a well-mannered young master. He was not embarrassed in front of the ladies at all. He spoke frankly with assurance and took care of everyone in every aspect. Everyone was amazed. He was really a meticulous and considerate man. If his family background was good, it would be good to introduce him to their daughter as a son-in-law. Thus, the ladies with daughters surrounded him enthusiastically and asked about his family situation. Xiao Han replied politely, "My parents are doing business abroad. They're old and plan to return to China to retire, so they asked me to come back first to buy a piece of land or a house. I've been looking around recently to see if there's anything suitable." The ladies were delighted. When they heard that he came from a wealthy family, they hurriedly asked, "Han, do you have a girlfriend?" Xiao Han smiled embarrassedly. "Not yet. I've been busy with my career for the past few years and haven't thought about personal matters." That was even better. He was indeed a young and promising man. Even Chen Tingfang had an idea. Zixu was unwilling to break up with that good-for-nothing Jiang Tianhao because she had not met someone better. If there was someone as talented and good-looking as Xiao Han, she might compromise. After having this idea, the more Chen Tingfang looked at Xiao Han, the more she liked him. Her smile became gentler. She said as an elder, "Rihan, if you don't mind Sister Chin being a busybody, Sister Chin intends to introduce a girlfriend to you. What do you think?" Attention, Shinwoo 799. Chapter 847. Xiao Han's ears turned red, and he said shyly, "Will it be too much trouble for Sister Chin?" It was rare to see a boy blushing in this day and age. It was obvious that he was an innocent child. Chen Tingfang smiled even more kindly. No, I have a hobby, and that is to be a matchmaker." Lin Tai couldn't help but tease her. "When did you have this hobby? How come I didn't know about it?" Chen Tingfang said calmly, "Who asked Ihan to be so outstanding? He makes people want to introduce him to a girlfriend so that he can be happy." This sentence moved Xiao Han, and he looked at Chen Tingfang with a different gaze. It was deep and passionate, with a hint of attachment. However, other than Chen Tingfang, no one else noticed it. Chen Tingfang felt a little guilty, but she quickly felt relieved. Zissou was such an outstanding girl, and Xiao Han wouldn't be at a disadvantage. Lin Tai suddenly said, "Ji Tai, don't tell me you want to introduce your daughter to Ihan. But I remember that your daughter already has a fiancé." Chen Tingfang hurriedly said, "Of course not, Lin Tai. You're thinking too much." Lin Tai smiled faintly, as if telling her with his eyes, "I've already seen through your thoughts." Chen Tingfang was unhappy, but because Xiao Han was present, she couldn't say anything. The atmosphere was a little awkward, and Xiao Han helped her out by saying, "Sisters, it's fate that we met. Can you give Ihan some face and treat us to a cup of coffee?" Li Yazi had long been interested in this handsome guy. She elegantly stroked the hair by her ear and threw him an ambiguous look, "We're a little tired, so we'll get a cup of coffee from Ihan and take a break." Xiao Han ignored her gaze and smiled warmly and politely. He stretched out his arm like a gentleman and said, "Please, sisters." In the cafe, Chen Tingfang asked about Xiao Han's family background. She found out that his family was in the clothing business and had several factories in Europe and hundreds of clothing stores. She also found out that he was his only son and would definitely inherit the family business in the future. In addition, he was handsome and had a good conversational style, so he was the best candidate to be a son-in-law. Chen Tingfang was even more determined to take him in as a son-in-law. After leaving the cafe, everyone said goodbye to each other and walked to their parking spaces. Xiao Han accompanied Chen Tingfang. They were already very familiar with each other and their conversations were intimate. Chen Tingfang turned her head sideways and spoke to Xiao Han. She didn't notice that a man in a colorful shirt was rushing toward her at an extremely fast speed. Xiao Han's expression changed and he anxiously said, "Be careful." Before he could finish his sentence, he quickly pulled her into his arms and quickly dodged. In a flash, the man in the colorful shirt had already snatched Chen Tingfang's handbag and ran in the opposite direction. Xiao Han didn't have time to care about the handbag that was snatched away. He anxiously asked the person in his arms, "Sister Chin, are you okay?" At the same time, a vigorous figure appeared out of nowhere and kicked an empty can on the ground toward the robber's right leg. The robber was caught off guard and fell to one knee with a thud. The bag that he snatched also fell to the ground. The robber knew that he had met an expert and didn't dare to pick up the bag again. He hurriedly got up and ran as fast as he could. Chen Tingfang saw Xia Bing appear and snatched her handbag back. She heaved a sigh of relief and smiled at Xiao Han. "I'm fine. Thank you. If it wasn't for you just now, I would definitely have been knocked to the ground by the robber." The robber rushed toward her at an extremely fast speed. If Xiao Han hadn't pulled her back in a moment of desperation, she would definitely have been injured. A smile finally appeared on Xiao Han's handsome face. "It's good that you're okay. It was really dangerous just now. I didn't do anything. Thank you to that gentleman for taking Sister Chen's handbag back. Madam, your handbag. At this time, Xia Bing had already returned with her handbag. Chen Tingfang reached out to take it. Only then did she realize that she was still in Xiao Yihan's arms. She blushed. Xiao Yihan also realized that his behavior was inappropriate at this time. He hurriedly let go of her and took 2 steps to the side. His fair cheeks were stained with a faint blush. Chen Tingfang glanced at him from the corner of her eye. She saw that he was obviously uncomfortable but pretended to be calm and composed. She couldn't help but find it funny. He was indeed a pure and innocent man. She took the handbag from Xia Bing and nodded slightly. Xia Bing, thank you for your hard work. Xia Bing nodded and didn't say anything. He expressionlessly retreated to the side of the car, opened the door, and waited quietly. Chen Tingfang looked at Xiao Yihan with a smile. Yihan, thank you for today. Whether it was the coffee or the matter just now, I'll treat you to a meal next time when you have time. Okay, then it's a promise. I'm looking forward to our next meeting. Xiao Yihan was a gentleman. He was really suave and handsome. Today was really a day of constant turmoil. After Chen Tingfang got into the car, she felt unusually tired. She leaned against the seat and closed her eyes to rest. The car moved forward steadily. After an unknown period of time, Chen Tingfang suddenly felt a strong vibration. Her body suddenly swayed and she opened her eyes in shock. She heard Xia Bing's deep voice. Madam, sit tight. Chen Tingfang's heart trembled. As long as she heard those words, she knew that something had happened. Sure enough, before she could think further, she saw a small truck in front of them at an extremely fast speed. On the other side was a mountain wall. If they were careless, they would hit it. No, not only that, behind their car, there was also a van that was desperately rushing toward their car. Surrounded by danger, there was almost no possibility of dodging the pincer attack. Chen Tingfang instantly broke out in a cold sweat. Her hands tightly grasped the seat belt. She was so scared that her heart almost stopped beating. Cold sweat broke out on Xia Bing's forehead. He stared coldly in front of him. His body was stiff. His hands fiercely turned the steering wheel. The back of the car swung in a beautiful arc and narrowly avoided the car in front of them. The car's headlights grazed the tree trunk on the side of the road, making an ear-piercing sound. Seeing that they were getting closer to the mountain wall, Chen Tingfang closed her eyes in fear and trembled all over. The car did not hit the mountain wall. Xia Bing made an emergency turn and stepped on the accelerator. The car roared and drove straight ahead. Because the small truck was too fast, it hit the oncoming van. A loud bang reverberated through the quiet mountain path. Although they were already far away from the accident, Chen Tingfang was still in shock. Her face was pale and her heart was filled with hatred. Su Yanqing, you be *tch, how dare you plot against me like this? I will never let you off. It was not a good idea to be passive and hide. Su Yanqing's methods were hard to guard against. She could be killed by the other party at any time. She had to take the initiative to attack. What was so great about the Black Flame sect? She would make them disappear completely. After thinking about it again and again, Chen Tingfang gave up the idea of asking her cousin for help. She hired a private investigator to find out some information about Su Yanqing. Su Yanqing, Miss of the Black Flame sect. She was 30 years old and unmarried. She used to have a fixed boyfriend, Yi Zhaoxian, but he disappeared. In fact, she killed him. Her love life was unknown at this stage. She was ruthless, arrogant and domineering, but she loved her younger brother very much. Since Suja was imprisoned, she focused all her energy on the affairs of the Black Flame sect. She was basically a workaholic. It was not easy to find her flaws. Chen Tingfang had a headache. One day, she suddenly understood. Why did she have to fight with Su Yanqing? She wanted to drag Ji Yuqi into the mess and let the two be *cheese fight. She slammed the table and applauded her plan. Her blood boiled as she thought about how to negotiate with Su Yanqing. In the afternoon, in a quiet tea restaurant, a noblewoman was sitting leisurely by the window. Her eyebrows were delicate, and there was a faint smile on her beautiful face. She was looking at the woman sitting across from her. The woman opposite her was wearing black trousers and a white shirt. Her long hair was tied up in a bun. Her facial features were beautiful, but it was a pity that she was a little cold. She looked like a serious high-level manager. She did not look like the daughter of a terrifying underground organization. Su Yanqing's slender fingers gently stirred the coffee. She raised her dark eyes slightly and stared coldly at Chen Tingfang. Negotiate? What a joke. What right do you have to negotiate with me? Chen Tingfang's smile was still perfect. She said indifferently, Miss Su, oh no, I should call you Master Su now. I know you're trying to deal with me. In order to save my life, I'll negotiate with you. Of course, it's worth it. Su Yanqing sneered and said coldly, you're the only one who's still alive after stealing my man. Tell me, if I'm not satisfied with your trump card, I'll crush you with 2 fingers at any time. Chen Tingfang hated Ji Yuqi and Ji Yunhan the most in her life. Secondly, she hated people who looked down on her. Su Yanqing's contemptuous tone provoked her. She was so angry that her eyes were burning. She clenched her fists tightly and gritted her teeth. She restrained herself from saying something irreversible in a moment of anger. After suppressing her anger for a long time, she finally calmed down. She laughed coldly and said, I thought that miss from the underground organization was very impressive, but it turns out that you're just a so-so. Don't you love your brother very much? Then do you know why he targeted Ji Yunhan twice, but Ji Yunhan escaped twice? In the end, he was sent to prison because of a gang fight. Su Yanqing's sharp gaze pierced Chen Tingfang like a knife. The ruthlessness in her eyes made people tremble uncontrollably. She said coldly, I thought that the culprit was sitting opposite me. If he wasn't used by you, why would Aja target Ji Yunhan and end up in such a state? Chen Tingfang's cold and arrogant tone was slightly restrained. I admit that I'm partly responsible for this matter, but the most direct cause is not me. Suja tried to deal with Ji Yunhan twice, but both times he was able to escape. Instead, Suja got himself into trouble. It wasn't because Ji Yunhan was lucky, but because someone was helping him. Awesome novel, Hongcha 866. Chapter 848. Su Yanqing wasn't a fool. She had considered this possibility before, but she hadn't been able to find the culprit. Hence, she had chosen to deal with Yi Zhaoxian and Chen Tingfang. If it wasn't for them, Suja wouldn't have gone to find trouble with Ji Yunhan. However, if she could find the culprit, she would be more than happy to do so. Chen Tingfang saw a flicker in her eyes and paused on purpose. Su Yanqing raised her eyebrows impatiently. Continue. Chen Tingfang smiled. Ji Yuqi is the real culprit. She is just like you, she loves her younger brother the most. Of course, she wouldn't watch Suja bully her younger brother. If I'm not wrong, the evidence of Suja's crimes was also sent to the police by Ji Yuqi. In fact, Chen Tingfang was just making things up. She wanted to direct Su Yanqing's hatred towards Ji Yuqi. However, she had hit the nail on the head. Su Yanqing's eyes narrowed. She tapped her fingers on the table and said calmly, "I don't need wild guesses. What evidence do you have to convince me?" Chen Tingfang smiled. Fortunately, she was prepared. She placed a stack of photos on the table. "Previously, I wanted to deal with Ji Yuqi, so I hired a private investigator to follow her. Here, these are the photos the private investigator gave me." Su Yanqing glanced at her and picked up the photos. She flipped through them carefully. There wasn't anything special about the photos. Most of the photos were of Ji Yuqi being intimate with a man. The most important thing was that the man's face was either from the side or from the back. Not a single photo showed his face. Su Yanqing threw the photos on the table and glared at her unhappily. She said coldly, "What can these photos prove?" "At most, it proves that Ji Yuqi is dating a man." Chen Tingfang wasn't angry. She took out a photo and passed it to her. "Look at this photo. Doesn't the name of the bar look familiar?" Su Yanqing glanced at the photo. Indeed, it was Nightfall Bar. This was the place where Su Zhe had plotted against Ji Yunhan. If Ji Yuqi frequented Nightfall Bar with another man, then she would have noticed that Ji Yunhan was in trouble. This would explain why she was able to save Ji Yunhan in time every time. Under Chen Tingfang's guidance, Su Yanqing had started to think that Ji Yuqi was the culprit behind the scenes. Chen Tingfang, who was good at reading people's expressions, naturally noticed the change in Su Yanqing's expression. She curled her lips in satisfaction. These so-called photos were all made by her. They were not the most straightforward evidence, but they could prove that Ji Yuqi did have the motive and opportunity to commit the crime. As for the rest, she would let Su Yanqing, this paranoid woman, fill in the blanks. Oh, she really admired her own intelligence. Su Yanqing rolled her eyes and several thoughts flashed through her mind. She threw the photos away and leaned back. She raised her chin arrogantly and said coldly, "Tell me, what are your plans?" Chen Tingfang brushed her hair behind her ear and smiled elegantly. "My request is very simple. We will mind our own business. Of course, as compensation, I will tell you Ji Yuqi's whereabouts. You can take revenge however you want. What do you think?" Su Yanqing raised her willowy eyebrows and her lips curved into a strange smile. This is a good deal. However, before we reach an agreement, I want to collect some interest." Chen Tingfang felt uneasy. She raised her guard. "What else do you want?" Su Yanqing snapped her fingers. Before Chen Tingfang could react, she felt a sharp pain in the back of her head. She lost control of herself and fell towards the table. A few seconds before she lost consciousness, she heard Su Yanqing's cold voice. "Since you like men so much, I'll give you a few more." The man standing behind Chen Tingfang picked her up the moment she fell, just like a lover. He didn't arouse anyone's suspicion at all. He just carried her like this and quickly walked out of the restaurant. On the street, Xia Bing, who was waiting in his car, suddenly saw a man and a woman coming out of the door. The man was carrying Chen Tingfang and the woman was Su Yanqing. They quickly walked towards their car. Xia Bing punched the steering wheel and cursed under his breath. He waited for the car to drive a distance away before he quietly followed. Because the other party was a member of the underground organization, they were very vigilant. Xia Bing did not dare to follow too closely. However, after following them for a few streets, they just happened to encounter a red light. He could only watch as their car disappeared into the traffic. When Chen Tingfang woke up, she was already in the hotel. She was surrounded by 5 or 6 white and fat bodies. Those people had a vulgar look on their faces as they stretched out their claws on her body. Her clothes had long been torn to pieces, and her white skin was left with bruises. Even if she was cruel and merciless, she was still a woman. This was the first time she encountered such a thing, and she was so scared that she almost cried. She bit like a madwoman and kept kicking the men who were close to her. The man who was closest to her was kicked in the groin and cried out in pain. When the others saw this, they became even more ferocious and wanted to kill her. Just when they suppressed her and were about to use force, the door was kicked open. A black shadow with cold anger quickly came in. Bang! 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 The men on top of her were kicked to the ground. They were lying on the ground in a mess. Their mouths were screaming in pain. Blood and broken teeth were left on the ground. Xia Bing stepped on the back of the hand of the man closest to him. There was a cracking sound. It should be the broken finger. He was expressionless. He quickly took off his coat and threw it to Enchanting. Hurry up, we can't stay here for long. Xia Bing. Enchanting could not calm down. She suddenly threw herself into his arms and cried without caring about her image. The woman in his arms was almost naked as she threw herself into his arms. He could clearly feel her full pink body. His brows were tightly knitted as he stiffly stretched out his hand to push her away. Suddenly, he heard a burst of chaotic footsteps. His heart trembled as he quickly picked her up and rushed to the door. At the end of the corridor, a group of gangsters rushed over. Enchanting was so scared that she buried her head in his arms and did not dare to move. Xia Bing took out a few darts from somewhere and quickly threw them at the pursuers. At the same time, he held the woman in his arms and quickly fled. After running out of the hotel, the group of people did not dare to chase after them. Xia Bing had already thrown Enchanting into the car and stepped on the gas pedal. The car was like an arrow leaving the bow as it sped out. Enchanting was in a mess. She was only wrapped in Xia Bing's coat. She shrank in the corner of the back seat and trembled in shock. Xia Bing glanced at her in the rearview mirror and said nothing. He was scared. Fortunately, he put a tracker in her coat pocket just in case, so he could track her position. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. After some time, he suddenly stopped the car and ran to a roadside shop. He bought a set of women's clothes and put it on the back seat. Put it on first. I'll smoke outside. Then, he leaned against the car door, lit a cigarette, and started to smoke slowly. Enchanting looked around. This was a quiet area with few people. She quickly threw away the coat and put on the dress Xia Bing bought. Although the style was ordinary and the material was not very good, she did not expect it to fit quite well. Xia Bing finished smoking and guessed that she should have changed her clothes. He got into the car again and the two of them returned to the Ji family's house in silence. Perhaps it was because of the shock, Enchanting fell sick that night. Coincidentally, she used the excuse of catching a cold to sleep in the guest room. Otherwise, Ji Bowen would definitely cause a huge uproar if he saw the marks on her body. The next morning at breakfast, her face was pale and she still looked very haggard. Ji Bowen thought that she had been too tired recently, so he told her to rest well and then went to the company. Yi Zhisu acted coquettishly by her side to cheer her up. She even cooked porridge for her. Enchanting felt that she had suffered so much so that her daughter could live a good life in the future. Fortunately, her daughter was filial. She was very gratified. She looked at Ji Yuqi and her brother. The two of them were saying words of concern, but they were probably very happy and wanted her to die. Humph, she would not do as they wished. She wanted to live well and see how they would be defeated in the future. Ji Yuqi and her brother were secretly happy. Although they did not know what had happened to Enchanting, they were sure that she had been taught a lesson by Su Yanqing. Otherwise, she would not be so haggard. However, they did not know that danger would soon befall them. Su Yanqing did not completely believe Enchanting words. After Xia Bing rescued her, Su Yanqing decided to let Chen Tingfang off temporarily. She wanted to find out if Ji Yuqi was the one behind this. She went to the prison where Su Jie was serving his sentence. She found out from Su Jie that he had recorded a video of a mysterious person rescuing Ji Yunhan. He also said that on the night of his arrest, he had met a very ugly street girl. Su Yanqing was very interested in these two things. After returning home, Su Yanqing immediately checked the video. After careful observation and comparison, she finally confirmed that the person with the jacket wrapped around her head in the video was Ji Yuqi. The two of them looked very similar. In other words, they were exactly the same. Ji Yuqi, so you are the mastermind behind this. Su Yanqing's deep eyes emitted a murderous aura that made people shudder. This year, Capital University's graduation ceremony was very grand. Not only did they invite the city's main leaders, they also invited dozens of prestigious alumni from all walks of life. Even people from the television station would be there to do a live broadcast. According to the procedure, the leaders would first give a speech, then the graduation certificate would be awarded to the outstanding graduates. After that, there would be a graduation performance. However, it was not only the graduates who would be performing, but also the students from other grades. It was an honor that Ji Yuqi was the representative of the students in charge of the university. Her performance was arranged to be the second-last performance, as the finale. Ad. Hongcha 866. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.